at around 3:40 yesterday. As we understand it, one of the couple's daughters discovered their parents here, both apparently stabbed to death.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt in L.A. Nick Reiner has been open about a long struggle with addiction and mental health issues. A manhunt continues after the deadly mass shooting at Brown University in Rhode Island, where 2 students were killed and 9 others wounded over the weekend. Police announcing last night that a person of interest was being released. Friday's losses extended on Wall Street. The Dow down 41 points at the bell. America is listening to Fox News.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Sniffles and sneezes got you down? GoodRx is here to help with big savings on commonly prescribed cold and flu meds. GoodRx is free and easy to use. GoodRx is accepted at all major pharmacies like CVS, Walmart, and Walgreens. Just search your prescription, find a coupon, then show your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx is not insurance, but it works whether you have insurance or not. If you do, GoodRx may beat your copay price. Download the free app or visit GoodRx.com to save today.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
The coldest air so far this season is now a thing of the past. We have improving temperatures the next several days. On this Monday afternoon, sunny. I have to call it a touch breezy, 42 for the high. Tonight, clear skies, 28 on Tuesday, sunny. Warm it up to 52 Tuesday afternoon, and Wednesday, mostly sunny. How about 58? Almost a heat wave in the middle of December. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, maybe I'm only glad that it's not next Monday, because all this news would be even more depressing, like just a few days before Christmas, unfortunately. But wow, it was literally a situation yesterday, Fred, where I just had to turn football on and not watch the news. You know, you have
it was bad all day
Brown
long.
University, what happened at Bondi Beach in Australia, the Rob Reiner situation. Sue, how are you this afternoon? Man.
I read that this morning, and I thought, I did a double take, and I had to reread it. I thought, wait, what?
Well, that's what happened to me yesterday afternoon, and then I thought they were murdered. Okay, that sounds, awful, but then you find out it's their son, Nick, who was the killer, and now he's in custody. He's being held on a $4 million bond. One of their daughters found Rob Reiner and his wife's bodies, which can you even... No. These we talk about this every once in a while. I can't not imagine being a first responder with something like this. When Janae Edmondson lost her leg, I have a friend who was the first one on the scene, and he's seen people shot in the head, and he said he had never seen anything as horrific as that. And in a situation like this, I can't imagine, you can't tell me that the cops and the detectives don't know who they're dealing with when they go into that home. And they're slit, their throats are slit, and the daughter finds the body. Now, obviously, the elephant in the room here is Trump's response to all this, and we have a little bit of an update this afternoon as well. But look, I think people know at this point. I kind of call him like I see him, and you can't sit here. Let's face a couple of realities. You had people on the right that were screaming, somewhat justifiably, for weeks, for people to be fired from their jobs for saying horrible, horrible things about Charlie Kirk in the aftermath of his assassination. So Trump comes out on Truth Social and says, a very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness. And with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before, may Rob and Michelle rest in peace. I don't think that was exactly the sincerity there in the last line. Now, look, my position on this is why. That's not necessary. So you got, Rob Reiner, he was Trump deranged. He said some terrible things about the president. But to a certain extent, you don't have to act like they do. Right. Okay? Just for one moment. Now, I've dealt with this, and most of us have dealt with this for a decade now. We know that he can't help himself in situations like this. And I understand his position given some of the things. I mean, it wasn't like Rob Reiner was a critic. He was completely Trump deranged. So here's what he said just a few minutes ago, the president.
Well, I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. You know, it was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country.
All right, so let me address this the way that I'm concerned about it, because it was a horrible tragedy. There was a period in my life where I would have told you 30 years ago, if you were to ask me, I remember talking about this on the radio, if you were to ask me one director that I could give a project to, I would have given it to Rob Reiner, because he was like gold. Everything he touched was amazing. There was a lot of movie magic there. And then you go back to All in the Family, and that was groundbreaking as well. And we can maybe get into that a little bit later on. But this is, for the most part, a political talk show, and let me express some of the concerns that I have because of the behavior of the president. There is no doubt, and those of you out there that don't want to believe this, you can choose not to believe it, but the polling isn't super rosy on Trump right now, and even on the economy. And I think still some good things are going to happen with the economy, and there's no doubt that the legacy media plays into this. But the one area that Trump suffers, and we've seen it throughout all these elections in the fall, even the ones that he wins, even the ones that the Republicans have won, rather, is that he does not have the white suburban voter in particular, the educated voter. And if you open up Facebook, which is a toxic place anyway, all you'll see is lefties today posting this thing from Trump. And it's indefensible. I'm not going to go on there and defend what he said, because I can't defend it, and it's indefensible, and he shouldn't have said it, but he's Trump, so he said it. So if you want to give him a pass on that, that's your decision. You can give him a pass on it and say, well, they say mean things about Trump. But the reason it matters to me is, why in the world would you, when this is an unforced error, you didn't have to do this, right? You could have said, you don't like me very much, but you know what? This is a tragic thing, and we don't want stuff like this to happen. But that's not Trump, and we know that Rob Reiner really did hate him a lot. But this is one of those things that people will say, you know what? They go back to the sophomoric behavior. You kind of give the sophomoric behavior a pass to a certain extent, and I have to a certain extent, because we favor the policies and the agenda, and we love America, and we don't hate America, and all those things. But look, this has consequences too. And if you're fine, and I'm not, with Hakeem Jeffries being the Speaker of the House in a year because of an accumulation of unforced errors that this president might make into 2026, that's fine, but I'm not, okay? And I'm not going to play the what about game here in this particular situation. It wasn't an appropriate tweet. I don't think he should have said it. His feelings are known. Hopefully we can move on at this point. But, it gives, this is where it drives me crazy, even the whole Brendan Carr, Jimmy Kimmel, FCC thing. It gives the left ammo to say, look, this is what we're talking about, right? Now, I have my whole Twitter feed is, taken up by people responding on this afternoon, and a lot of people who are somehow defending it. But you know what? The overwhelming, and I look at my interaction, I have a lot of interaction on the post that I said I cannot defend it. And those are people who supported me. You don't know, because you got Republicans out there that won't go out there and they won't tweet that because they're afraid of the consequences, right? And I've even seen some people like pretty hardcore Republicans, I don't know if they want to say MAGA, that have been critical here. Now, Tom Massey was the one, and Tom Massey doesn't like a lot of the things that the president does. He's from Kentucky. He's, he's always the obstructionist. I think he's a little kooky, but he said this, and this is what I tweeted. I said, regardless of how you felt about Rob Reiner, this is inappropriate and disrespectful discourse about a man who was just brutally murdered. I guess my elected GOP colleagues, the VP, and the White House staff will just ignore it because they're afraid. I challenge anyone to defend it, and I retweeted that and said, I cannot defend it. So we'll have more to say on that as we move along in the afternoon. There's a couple other stories from Los Angeles that are getting attention. We have Brian Ping, who's a St. Louis native, who is at Canex in Los Angeles, and he was... Remember, Fred, it was almost a year ago when we were talking about wildfires, right?
Yeah.
Brian's been great to us on all the stories, that happen out there. And we'll get his reaction on not only the Rob Reiner double murder by their son, Nick, who's in custody, but also there was a New Year's Eve terror plot that was thwarted. And we'll have some information on that. Now, you have a couple other big stories around the planet. The Brown University situation is still not settled. They don't know who the shooter is in that situation, right? Or they haven't identified the person.
No, they say they don't have much video. So they had an initial person arrested who's been released. And now they're out looking for more clues.
Here's a witness in that particular situation.
I look to my right and I see a bunch of students running down the stairs, running out the door, jumping on the ground, just whatever it takes to stay alive.
When you made eye contact with him, what did your mind tell you in terms of what was happening in that moment?
When I saw him, I saw a gun. The gun was so big and long that I genuinely thought, okay, this is the end of the road for me.
So it's super easy for those of us, enjoying a weekend with our family at home, watching football and doing stuff like that, to look at the TV screen and say, wow, there's another, terrible thing on a college campus. But I couldn't help thinking about, having one of my kids locked down for hours. This is horrific no matter what. But let's face it, most of them happen, they're over, and then you get to safety. In this situation, these kids were locked down for 6 hours. They couldn't find the shooter. They had to be terrified, right? Here's the president of Brown.
I'm catching up right now.
President, with all due respect, 6 hours after the shooting, and you said you don't know what was going on in that classroom? How does that happen? Were they taking an exam? Were they eating for a club?
I don't know.
6 hours later, and you're the president, and you don't know.
I do not know.
Well, that's kind of concerning.
I think that's concerning, too. I really do. How could she not have more answers at that point? This is the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island.
I know there's been some frustration from members of the community and others about the language that we've been using about the person of interest and such, and that speaks to directly the fact that this investigation was and continues ongoing, and we will continue to endeavor to not confirm any information that is not yet confirmable. And that is how we can best be transparent with all the members of our community to share the best information.
Well, blah, 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 right? There's not a lot of video, which is weird.
Yeah, it was an old part of the school
where
they didn't have cameras.
So now, and what happens in that particular situation, Fred, as you probably detected today, is there's conspiracy theorists, right? Now they think somehow there's a cover-up because they're not releasing some of the video.
Look, there just weren't a lot of cameras in that Brown building, is the reality. It's, both of my kids were engineering students and were in that library a lot, class of 19 and class of 22. The reality is it's an old building attached to a new one. So there just isn't.
Wow. Anyway, so we'll track that. We have what happened in Australia. We'll address that here with Josh Kraushaar, political insider, 97.1 FM Talk, also editor-in-chief of the Jewish Insider, and he's going to join us in a couple of minutes. I mentioned Brian Ping. We'll get him on at the bottom of the hour, talking about the Rob Reiner situation and the New Year's Eve attack that was thwarted. We'll have a Monday edition of Sue's News. Phil Holloway will be here from Atlanta on all of these crime stories as well. We got Cusumano this afternoon for his regular visit, John Ziegler at 5:04, and then the trial of that Milwaukee judge, the circuit judge up in Milwaukee, Hannah Dugan, who let an illegal migrant, slip out of her courtroom. Her case, her trial started today. My friend Dan O'Donnell, who's a talk show host at WISN in Milwaukee, also an attorney, or he's not a practicing attorney, he's got a law degree. Dan will join us at 5:30, plus we'll have an audio cut of the day.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got westbound Highway 30 completely shut down at Little Brennan. This is due to a pretty serious accident there. Again, westbound Highway 30 closed at Little Brennan due to an accident. And we've got a jam, of course, behind it, well past New Sugar Creek Road. In fact, all of this is creating a huge jam on southbound New Sugar Creek Road. It's almost back to Hawkins. So again, don't take westbound 30 this afternoon if you're headed for Little Brennan. Now, we also have an accident eastbound 6440. This is approaching Highway N. They've got the left lane blocked there. Traffic was slowing in both directions. And an accident just reported northbound 67 past Roxana Drive. So expect a delay there. Now, that is the worst of it. Other than that, just a little bit of volume on southbound 55 headed for Bayless. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey, Stewie, I need some cash. I need money. Who doesn't need money? What can you do for me?
You know, Annie, this is a question people ask all the time. Now, pay attention because this is important. Don't get a home equity line of credit. A home equity line of credit is a credit card on your house. It's typically not a fixed rate, so it's an adjustable. You pay interest only. And there's a short-term opportunity to take the money out, and then later on, it turns into a loan that's a really high interest rate. Cash out refinance. That's the most important thing. Refinance your entire mortgage. Get the best rate that's out there. Give yourself the opportunity to refinance later when the rates drop. A cash out refinance is a little bit higher of a rate than a rate and term refinance. Do the cash out now, set yourself up for the future, and get the best deal out there. Just do me one favor. Don't tell my wife about this because she's going to want all the cash in the world to buy a new car.
Well, if you want to know more, Google the Bagel Loan to find out more information or call my friend Stewie, 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. Google the Bagel Loan for more information. NMLS number 226715.
Now, back to Mark Reardon, calling out the nonsense, one segment at a time. 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, I figured we segue into a little Christmas music since Christmas is 11 days away, I think, at this point. I know I have not really, I can say I started doing a little Christmas research, but have I done my shopping? I have not. That's what I will tell you right now.
You've done research?
Research. I've done some recon, Sue.
I see.
But
the shipping, you know how the mail system is.
no, I know. I have to make some decisions today, to your point, and we will do that. Josh Kraushaar is with us, 97.1 FM Talk political insider, to talk about a bunch of stuff. How are you, Josh, this afternoon?
Good. A busy news week, a tragic news week in many ways, but that's the way the world's been going these days. So
yeah,
good to be back with you.
Happy Hanukkah to you. And then, Fred and I even mentioned earlier, it's hard to even say that considering, what happened in Australia. That's just horrifying. And I don't even know how to start a conversation about that, Josh. I really don't, especially with you or people who are Jewish.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of a pattern across the globe where, we've seen, especially since the Hamas terrorist attack of October 7th, anti-Semitism has been spiking and growing and tolerated throughout the world, including here in the United States. So there were a lot of warnings in Australia that there were a lot of worries about Islamic extremism, about not tackling with the vandalism and the swastikas and the hate that was happening on the ground, and eventually without that kind of tolerance, sadly, can lead to the awful violence that we saw at the beach.
Yeah, I know. At least there's a Miranda Devine's out with a column, and there's probably going to be more asking that question that you sort of just addressed there. Did Australia let this Jewish hate fester a little too much? And it might be a little hard to argue that they didn't.
Yeah, look, one common pattern that we've covered is that you have these political constituencies that are tolerating radical extremism, radical Islam, and makes it harder for political leaders to really put the effort in to crack down on it. We're seeing it in some elements of the United States. In New York City, I never would have imagined that you would have a mayor-elect that would not condemn the words globalize the Intifada. We saw in Australia what happens when the Intifada is globalized. We've seen it in other parts of the world as well. And the fact that it's become normalized, right? The fact that you can't, that's not easy to say for elements of the public is a really alarming development. You see it much more, I think, in Europe and in Australia. It's really a recent phenomenon where, Australia, one of the more peaceful parts of the world, that they don't have guns. I mean, guns are restricted very much so. And,
yeah, confiscated them all.
Anti-Semitism
Right.
has been on the rise, and that's. That part of the underbelly of tolerating some of this extremist language and ideas, and you saw the same, globalize the Intifada rhetoric, the same anti-Israel extremism that was very much a part of anti-Semitism, and then you have what you saw over the weekend.
Yeah, it's just awful. And suffice it to say, if that happened on a beach in America, I don't think it would have gone on for 11 minutes. But that hero that tackled the one dude, that's incredible to watch the video of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, tonight's the second night of Hanukkah. It's a reminder to shine the light in the face of all this hate and darkness, and that individual who may have saved lives by literally risking his life to to neutralize one of the killers. A tremendous story, and he deserves every bit of praise and heroism in Australia.
All right, talking about things that are tragic, what happened with Rob Reiner and his wife is just awful, and it was their own son who apparently and allegedly slit their throats. I can't even imagine coming up on that crime scene like that poor daughter and having to deal with all this. And now you have President Trump out there with a statement. Look, to me, this is a balls and strike issue. He makes a statement about, Rob Reiner having this mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. I don't think there's any argument that Rob Reiner despised Donald J. Trump. He made it very clear. But this is one of those moments for me where you just have to keep quiet. Now, Josh, he doesn't do that. We always kind of hope that he does. And then I got people on Twitter arguing with me, well, no, he was a POS. He deserved that. If you criticize the violent rhetoric and some of the, dancing on his grave that people did on the left for Charlie Kirk, you can't justify stuff like this. So that's what makes me mad. And by the way, I think you know this better than anyone. You want to alienate more white suburban voters who might help you keep the House next year? This is a sure good way to do it, I think.
Yeah, look, it's a matter of just basic decency. And look, Trump, it's not the first time he's made comments that are just shocking in many ways and totally lacking any compassion or empathy. But this is a new one. And by the way, I think from a political standpoint, Mark, it's notable that a lot of Republicans are now actually speaking out against what Trump has
and they
said.
should be.
And look, Don Bacon, the congressman from New York, Mike Lawler. It comes to, I think, up to a certain point, there were Republicans willing to look the other way. They said they didn't see the tweets, they didn't hear the Truth Social posts. Now Trump's political capital has declined. His job approval is at a near all-time low in his 2 terms in office, and that a lot of Republicans are now saying this is part of the problem. And I think they're hoping he can kind of focus on the economy, affordability, really focusing on the issues that
Josh,
voters care about, because he is losing political capital as we speak.
It would not have been too hard to not say anything, right? Let's not say anything right now, but that can't happen. So where do you put, let me kind of mix some other folks here into the conversation, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. What do you make of all that right now? Because, it's one thing to criticize the president. I'm not opposed to doing that. I'm doing that today a little bit. But she's hanging out with Code Pink and doing things that are just crazy. So how do you even make sense of what she's doing right now and that rift between those two?
Well, look, the world is really upside down when you have Marjorie Taylor Greene on the pretty far right end of the spectrum, smiling and being chummy with Code Pink, which is a kind of anti-American far left side of the spectrum. There's a lot of, ever since the guardrails have sort of been removed from our politics, there's just all kinds of crazy people roaming around, far left, far right. The fact that Code Pink is treated credibly, the fact they co-sponsored an anti-Israel bill that was just got a couple dozen House Democrats to support it in Congress. That would have been unthinkable a few years ago. So the kind of radicalism that's been percolating in our politics is hard to imagine. But look, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think she does reflect some populist views on the right wing of the ideological spectrum, and she's clashing with Trump on the Epstein files, on healthcare subsidies, on sort of at least you could say she's focused on policy, and there's a real disagreement on the populist wing of the party and then the more traditional, or at least the Trump wing of the party. But it makes those criticisms a lot less credible when you're palling around with Code Pink, which is an anti-American extremist group, and they're far left, and they're the people that yell and scream at the congressional hearings and try to shout people down. This is not funded by communist China. It's not a mainstream group by any sense of by anyone's label, and it's kind of crazy that Marjorie Taylor Greene wouldn't have the sense not to pal around with them.
So, and it's hard to take out the Rob Reiner aspect of Trump, but let's for a moment act like that didn't happen. Let's go back to last week in Pennsylvania with a pretty long speech, campaign-style speech, obviously focusing on the economy. He does his weaving and, kind of goes on for a long time. But what do you – I'm having a variety of perspectives shared. So Sean Spicer last week, extremely concerned about the midterms, the economy, making sure the message gets out there. Other folks that are guests, that are pundits, not as concerned. This is overdone. So what's the truth on the risk and where Republicans are on the Hill? Because obviously, if you believe Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's making the case that a lot of Republicans know that they're in trouble and they're just afraid to criticize the president.
Well, Trump needed to give that speech because even members of his own base were worried that he wasn't paying enough attention to the economy. So he goes to one of the biggest swing states in the country where there are going to be a lot of important House elections and talks a lot, but doesn't necessarily focus on the issue that a lot of Republicans wanted him to focus on, which is affordability and inflation and just giving people a little sense of relief that the economy is going to be on the right track. So yes, doing the campaign rallies, which Trump used to like and used to do quite a bit of, even in the off years, I think that is what they want more of. But they need him to be on message. And look, you get Trump, you get the whole you've always gotten the whole package with Trump. You're not going to get a quick 30-minute speech focused on some talking points about the economy. You're going to get the whole shebang. And the thing that Republicans and a lot of people who are in this White House are very concerned about, though, Mark, is that this, for the first time, it's not just Democrats attacking Republicans on the economy. There's a lot of new polling showing that at least about a third of that base. So there was an AP poll that came out last week showing 33% of Republicans having a negative view, disapprove Trump's handling of the economy. That's pretty unusual. Trump had great economic numbers in his first term, even when things went south. And it was pretty good. People trusted him on tariffs. They had a pretty good sense in the first few months of where he was going. But the results on the ground, the uneasiness they have about where this economy is headed, is very real. And when you lose a third of your own base, when you have
that's troubling.
Problem,
right? No, I get it.
That's a political headache. That's a big political red flag.
One media-related question. What did you think about, in this maybe signal different, bigger messages, about the CBS News town hall meeting with Erica Kirk? Not a Fox News town hall meeting, a CBS News with Barry Weiss.
Yeah, I think that's a sign of Barry Weiss's influence on the network since it was bought by the Elephants. And look, I think it's I think they're trying to balance ideologically the programming more than it has been in the past. And I think number two, the fact that Barry was front and center asking the tough questions and having the town hall format, which is something she was very good at the Free Press, having these debates, the formats. The debates and the free exchange of ideas is something that she championed at the Free Press, and I think you might see more of that at CBS News.
Well, look, a lot of people thought that it was unfair to have the guy at the end ask the question, who was the man who was asking Charlie his question, Charlie Kirk, when he was assassinated. I mean, I guess you can make a case for that, but I didn't think it was a completely unfair question. I don't know, maybe the moment wasn't right, but she still handled it. Erica Kirk still handled it very well.
Yeah, and look, I think the big question, both on CBS, and she's done a lot of appearances on Fox News as well, is about the civil war taking place within the MAGA movement and even within her own organization, Charlie's organization of Turning Point, where you have a rise of extremists trying to exploit the platforms, trying to cause chaos within the movement, and that was I thought Erica spoke very, very powerfully about these people that are just bad actors kind of jumping on Charlie's grave and just really smearing.
Yeah, all I want for Christmas, I'll keep it simple. All I want for Christmas is Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson to not be completely and totally insane. Is that a too big of an ask? I don't know. Josh.
Yeah, no, you mentioned the names, Mark, and those are the people who are the worst actors right now in the MAGA movement, and they're really causing real damage personally to Erica Kirk and politically to the conservative movement.
I don't get it. It's crazy. Have a great Hanukkah. Enjoy the holidays. We'll see what 2026 brings us, Josh Kraushaar. Always appreciated.
Thanks, Mark. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, we've got some issues on the commute tonight. If you are just heading out, there is really some slow-moving traffic in the usual places. Westbound 6440 at Hampton, but also westbound Highway 30. There was a serious accident at Little Brennan, and they shut it down for a while. We've got some slow-moving traffic still back past New Sugar Creek Road in that area. Now, let's see, 270. Just the usual volume there, and this is, of course, southbound, but it starts at Page, so slow pockets of moderate volume that stretch down through 21, and then it opens up. Westbound 70 looks pretty good as you head out west. In fact, it's just a little slow at Wentzville. And eastbound 6440, slowing in both directions at Highway N. There was an accident eastbound there in the left lane that's caused delays. Northbound 55 in good shape, but southbound slowing at Bates. And if you're headed into Illinois, we look pretty good on the bridges downtown. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/radio for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/radio for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hey, it's Tom Ackerman. Where do you go for your annual eye health examination? Ophthalmology Associates, of course. Doctors Greg Birdie and Ranjan Malhotra. Dr. Robert Bersati, he's the one I saw. Or Dr. Andrew Royer. They are available to you and are there to take care of all your vision needs at Ophthalmology Associates. They're on Manchester Road, a half mile west of 270. Your vision is their business at Ophthalmology Associates. In fact, many of their patients are doctors themselves. That's why they call themselves the doctors, Ophthalmology Associates. Are your eyes itchy and scratchy? It could be more than just allergies. They're the leaders in dry eye diagnosis and treatment. They're the leaders in LASIK and discussing those procedures. And if you're having difficulty reading or driving at night, you have glare from oncoming headlights, could be early signs of cataracts, and they can talk to you about multifocal lens implants. Ophthalmology Associates, youridoc.com.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing.
97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, this was jarring, to say the least, yesterday. I'm watching football, and then I see something about Rob Reiner dying. And, you know, you hear about Hollywood deaths all the time. Then you see his wife also died, and then you see that it's a murder. And then you see maybe the son is the main suspect. Here's the report from the cops yesterday when all this was happening.
3:40 this afternoon, Los Angeles police officers, along with the Los Angeles City Fire Department, responded to the 200 block of Chadbourne Avenue here in the city of Brentwood. Upon arrival, they determined that there were two deceased individuals inside of the residence.
So no arrests yesterday, but there was one today.
We have our Robbery Homicide Division handling the investigation. They worked throughout the night on this case and were able to take into custody Nick Reiner, a suspect in this case. He was subsequently booked for murder and is being held on $4 million bail.
Brian Ping, who is a St. Louis native, he's an anchor and reporter for KNX Radio in Los Angeles, is with us this afternoon. I don't know if anyone could have ever predicted something this horrific. How are you this afternoon, Brian?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks, Mark. How are you?
I'm all right. So do we know anything else this afternoon? Like I saw, Sue actually shared this with me, and, you know, sometimes you don't know the Hollywood reporting. This is Us Magazine that says that, like, he was going up to people at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party asking if they were famous and that there was an argument that took place there. And maybe that's something that happened in the immediate, you know, day before this tragedy. Are you knowing anything more about the weekend events and what led to this at this point?
Yeah, I'm seeing pretty much the same things that you are about that and the events leading up to this. One thing that is known about Nick Reiner is that he has a troubled history, and a lot of it with drug abuse. And he and his father, Rob, had at it a number of times as far as his discipline and the after effects of just what it was a troubled childhood moving into adulthood. And we can't speculate too much about the nature of what went down yesterday afternoon, but it ended in this terrible tragedy.
So the neighborhood where this happened, this is obviously probably populated with a lot of other celebrity stars. I think I saw in some of the reporting Billy Crystal was wandering around. Did he have neighbors that were basically showing up yesterday in the aftermath of this, expressing concern to the police and talking to the media, or not?
Well, as far as this is Brentwood, so I mean, this is the same neighborhood where O.J. Simpson lived, where that all went down, the murder there. So yeah, it is heavily populated with celebrities. You mentioned Billy Crystal, Larry David arriving at separate times, and Crystal being on the verge of tears. As far as the mood there, yeah, there have been a lot of break-ins of wealthy people's homes, celebrities and otherwise, over really the last couple of years. It's an ongoing trend here, and so security has been stepped up as something that we've seen a lot more of. So this kind of goes beyond just some random criminal breaking into a home. Apparently, of course, if this was Rob Reiner's son, but it just kind of adds to that that unsettled feeling of you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. It's just nuts when you think about it here. And, I've certainly been exposed, and a lot of families have been, to addiction problems and what happens as a result of that. But as the details get a little bit more, I guess, detailed, you become even more uncomfortable with some of the details here. And then, I don't know, this is not going to play well in Hollywood, but I did talk about it earlier with the tweet or the Truth Social post, not playing well with a lot of people here this afternoon. Because, look, it was very well established that Rob Reiner hated Donald J. Trump, and he did, in fact, have a strong case of what we call Trump derangement syndrome. I'm in the camp, Brian, that feels like the president should have just kept his mouth shut on this one and not got himself into more trouble, but a lot of people are defending it.
It just feels like one of those instances, like take the high road. I mean, all he had to do was not do something like that and just stoke these flames. And if you wanted to say something critical about him or his politics, it hasn't even been 24 hours. Yeah. And to somehow insinuate that he's dead because of that, I just cannot. I can't even begin to try to describe what he must have been thinking there. But and that's kind of taken over part of the news cycle here, unfortunately.
Yeah, it has. By the way, here's something weird. There's always very odd stories, especially when celebrities are involved. Michelle Singer, who is Rob Reiner's wife, was the photographer who took the picture for the cover of Trump's book, The Art of the Deal. How weird is that?
Wow, I did not know that. That's it just goes to show that this family was involved in a lot, and their achievements went far and wide. But wow, that really is something.
Yeah, I thought that was bizarre, and I even double checked that. I heard that today, and then I wanted to check and see if it was true. In fact, it was true. Rob Reiner had talked about it in the past. And then you have this: the U.S. Attorney in L.A. There was a New Year's Eve attack that apparently has been thwarted. Brian,
the charges we are announcing today stem from the defendants and their co-conspirators' detailed, coordinated plot to bomb multiple U.S. companies on New Year's Eve. Thankfully, that plot has now been foiled thanks to the hard work of the FBI and the Department of Justice.
And the details of the plot are crazy.
In November 2025, Defendant Carroll created a detailed bombing plot to use explosive devices to attack 5 or more locations across Southern California on this upcoming New Year's Eve. Carroll and her co-defendant Zachary Page led the effort to obtain and build the bombs and to recruit others to join in their plot. It included instructions to build IEDs and listed multiple targets across Orange County and Los Angeles. Carroll also made clear her desires. She said, quote, "What we are doing will be considered a terrorist act." Carroll and Page also discussed plans for follow-up attacks after their bombings, which included plans to target ICE agents and vehicles with pipe bombs. Carroll stated that those plans would, quote, "take some of them out and scare the rest."
So the Rob Reiner story is going to dominate because he's such a big name in Hollywood, but good Lord, thank God that was thwarted, and some of the details there, as indicated by the U.S. Attorney, are pretty crazy, Brian.
Well, I got to be honest with you here, Mark. That actually led our local newscast. It supplanted the Rob Reiner story. As unbelievable as that sounds, it would not be the lead story at any point today. That was the case throughout the morning here. But, yeah, when Bill Asaley there, the acting district attorney, announced those charges, those arrests made out in the desert not too far from Joshua Tree, Palm Springs, where apparently they had been trying to coordinate this. But they belong to allegedly some sort of far-left liberation front. And as you mentioned right there, the plot to attack ICE individuals. And this could have been yet another ugly incident here.
Yeah.
And if such was the case, thank goodness that was stopped.
So do we know, like they said that they have this document, I think it was referred to there by the U.S. Attorney, it's called Operation Midnight Sun, which had all these, plans to put backpacks with improvised explosive devices at these different, sites, and it could have been an awful, awful terrorist attack. Do we know how this was, was it someone who tipped off the feds, or do you know anything about how they were onto this?
Yeah, we're still trying to suss that out, but it's such a spread out area, and so much happens, throughout the city that you don't have to be clustered in one area. They could have gone to any number of neighborhoods, any sort of big events happening here. Just leave a backpack and maybe a place that isn't monitored to sweep for suspicious packages, and they could have carried it out that way. Any number of ways that they could have carried this out, but yeah, as far as who found this out, how they were able to find this out ahead of time, however it happened, it's a good thing that it did.
Yeah, because it's one thing when you have communications that are intercepted, or you say, look, we thwarted a plot, but in this particular case, these officials are saying this thing was underway, right? It was scheduled, it was dangerous, it was in motion, there were bombs, or at least everything they needed to make an operational bomb at the location where they made some of the arrests. So this was a serious, serious plot, and thank God that they caught these folks before it was executed.
Right. Well, here we are less than, I believe, 2 weeks or less than 2 weeks away from New Year's. So if it was going to be something on this scale, it would have to sort of be in motion right now as, the plotting in place, but actually mobilizing and getting this done. But, to find out about it now is very chilling.
Going to get home for Christmas, or are you stuck out there on the West Coast?
Yeah, I'll be there for a few days, so it'll be really nice to get there, get a taste of real winter for a little while before coming back out here.
We've had a real early bite of winter, and then, this morning when we woke up, it was like 16. I think yesterday it was 8, but it's supposed to get pretty nice here for the afternoons this week. So I don't know what you're going to encounter and when you're coming in, but it's kind of up and down, and that's how St. Louis weather is, right?
Yeah, my daughter's excited to see snow. I cannot promise that to her. She got it a couple of years ago, not last year. I think it was 55 and raining. So whatever turns out that way, weather-wise, we're looking forward to having a great time.
Might be a little too early to say if it's going to snow, but I will say that if she was here for Thanksgiving, she would have seen snow because we had that early storm. But listen, if we don't hook up when you're in town, I know you're going to be busy. Have a great Christmas, and thanks for jumping on here with me this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Have a very Merry Christmas, and to the listeners as well back in St. Louis.
Take care. That's Brian Ping, anchor, reporter, KNX in Los Angeles, St. Louis native.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, some good news in traffic. They have cleared the accident eastbound 6440 at Highway N. We just have a little bit of moderate westbound volume out there now. But there's an accident on northbound 170 really close to Scudder. And the lanes that are closed keep changing. But we had the left lane. Oh, yeah, now we do. We have the two left lanes blocked and the right lane. So traffic kind of squeezing by in the middle, and it's a slow go that goes south of 70. The other real jam at this hour is westbound 6440, but it's the usual. Kings Highway out past McCausland, southbound 55 slowing headed down toward Bates. 70 westbound looks good out of downtown. But there's a little bit of a slowdown at Wentzville. 44 slowing westbound in front of the Arch downtown. And if you are headed in or out of Illinois, things look good on the bridges. This report brought to you by Aspen Contracting, roofsbyaspen.com. Don't let cracked or missing siding leave your home vulnerable to St. Louis weather. Aspen Contracting has the crews and project managers ready to protect your home and restore its beauty. Call Aspen for your free siding inspection, 636-465-1696. I'm Sue Thomas with Traffic, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey girl, it's your radio buddy Jimmy Fallon. On behalf of the entire Fox Across America crew, we just want to thank the 97.1 FM Talk listeners for a fantastic 2025. You sure know how to make a girl feel special. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Have some great holidays.
Running a small business is a daily balancing act. One late shipment, one price hike, one employee issue, and your whole month, maybe the entire year, could be in trouble. That's where LendSeek comes in.
I needed $100,000 fast to keep up with inventory demands. LendSeek had me funded the same day I applied. Between their AI platform finding the fastest deal and a dedicated funding specialist guiding the process, it couldn't have been easier.
Our AI-driven platform matches your business with the right program from over 100 funders, up to $2 million in as fast as 24 hours. Don't wait until it's too late. If you've been in business at least 2 years with more than $500,000 in annual revenue, qualifying is simple. No collateral, no out-of-pocket costs, no hassle. From lines of credit, term loans to revenue-based financing, LendSeek is open for business. Apply in minutes at lendseek.com. That's LENDSEEK.com.
Eggland's Best. The only eggs with more fresh and delicious taste, plus superior nutrition. Available in so many delicious varieties. Classic, cage-free, organic, free-range, and pasture-raised. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Bells are ringing. Are you listening?
Well, we have what I would say is a terrible news cycle the week before Christmas. You have in Syria 2 U.S. soldiers and a translator killed, and they've been identified now as Sergeant William Nathaniel Howard and Sergeant Edgar Brian Torres Tovar. That's the statement that was released today. So you have that going on, and then this Bondi Beach stuff is just awful. It really is, and maybe there's a temptation because everything that happens in this country obviously gets more attention than international news. But think of what happened, and this could have been even worse. I also would say that if it was in Texas or somewhere else, it wouldn't have gone on for like 11 minutes. But this was a Sunday evening, and a lot of the folks here in Sydney, Australia, call Bondi Beach home. You had friends. It was a Hanukkah celebration. Thousands of people that were either on the beach or there was a grassy park nearby. And then all of a sudden at 6:30 last night, Australia time, shots start getting, rung out. You have two figures in dark shirts. They have long barrel guns. If you haven't seen the video, I wouldn't recommend watching the video of the violence, but if you haven't seen the video of the heroic guy that took down the second shooter, that was incredible. So the two gunmen were a father and son, 50 and 24 years old. This was Islamic fundamentalist terrorism. Again, the younger man apparently on the authorities' radar since 2019, but the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, said that there was no indication of any ongoing threat or threat of him engaging in violence. Apparently, they got that wrong. Here's some parents on CBS This Morning with Gail King talking about this.
Actually, on our way driving to the event, we were coming down the road towards Bondi, and we could see where the event was. And
there were only two policemen there. I didn't feel safe. I said to my don't feel safe.
I've got Capri. I'm on top of Capri. Where's Gigi? Gigi, you were with Gigi. Where's Gigi? She said, no, I'm not with Gigi. Where's Gigi?
Vanessa, that must have been terrifying, realizing that neither one of you had Gigi.
It was terrifying. I was hoping that Wayne did have. I got dragged for cover behind a parked car. I then stuck my head out. I'm screaming, and the gunshots are going, and I'm trying to run. I was screaming out, my baby is there, my baby Gigi is there, my baby Gigi. Everyone's like, stop screaming, he's going to get us, he's going to hear us, and I don't care, I've got nothing to lose, I've got to go.
Very thankful to Hashem that we are victims of this terror attack, but we are the fortunate victims because there are a lot of victims that are not so fortunate.
I can't believe this went on for 11 minutes. I saw a couple of people, with the, did you see the one guy that just had blood all over his face and he was doing an interview? He had sort of something wrapped around his head, but this was horrific. And you could see, so if you watched, what was actually going down, you could see people that were I guess I would describe it as pushed up against the a bit of a retaining wall that was, on the upper side of the beach, and they're just hiding for cover because they're not sure exactly what's happening. Here is the Australian Prime Minister.
What we saw yesterday was an act of pure evil, an act of anti-Semitism, an act of terrorism on our shores. The Jewish community are hurting today. Today, all Australians wrap our arms around them and say, we stand with you. We will do whatever is necessary to stamp out anti-Semitism, scourge, and we'll eradicate it together.
Here's another witness.
I saw at least one gunman firing, looked like a shotgun firing randomly in all directions. I saw children falling to the floor, so elderly I saw, invalids I saw. People it was an absolute bloodbath, blood gushing everywhere.
Now, this thing that I referenced with the guy that took down one of the shooters, that's gone very viral. It's an amazing piece of video, and a lot of the written accounts, like even in the New York Times and elsewhere, I don't see any reference to that, which is kind of crazy. President Trump certainly focused on that this morning when he talked about it.
Very, very brave person, actually, who went and attacked frontally one of the shooters and saved a lot of lives. So, very brave person who's right now in the hospital, pretty seriously wounded. So, great respect to that man that did that.
I'm trying to see here because I don't want to give you inaccurate numbers, but I think we're looking at 15 people dead at this point in that tragedy. And still a lot of questions. Then you have what happened at Brown University, and they're still trying to figure out what's going on with that. They don't have, that one's weird because they don't have a suspect. And there's not a lot of video, Sue. How do you even explain that?
Exactly. How is that possible?
Like, in this day and age, we talk about it all the time. You can't get away with stuff like this. But whatever happened here, apparently the guy got away with it.
Ugh.
Well, here is Chris Murphy, member of the United States Senate, who is a disgusting and despicable human being who wants to blame Trump on all this.
Not shocking, because over the last year, President Trump has been engaged in a dizzying campaign to increase violence in this country. He is restoring gun rights to felons and people who have lost their ability to buy guns. He eliminated the White House Office of Gun Violence Protection, and he has stopped funding mental health grants and community anti-gun violence grants that Republicans and Democrats supported in that 2022 bill. So he has been engaged in a pretty deliberate campaign to try to make violence more likely in this country. And I think you're unfortunately going to see the results of that on the streets of America.
That's so dumb. I mean, that's where they're going to go. And Chris Murphy, it's not a big surprise because this is what he does. He's from Connecticut. He's the guy that took out for, the Maryland father, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So he says a lot of dumb stuff. But, I think you can make a strong case, unfortunately, that if guns were legal in Australia, although the guys... This is where it gets a little confusing. The guys that had the long guns apparently had them legally. So I think you can have long guns maybe because of hunting, Sue. In Australia, I'd have to look at some of the, the details of what they did. They did this big gun confiscation thing years ago. Now, if you had conceal and carry at an American beach or something along those lines, I don't think this thing would have gone on nearly as long. But even in this situation with Brown University, or if you want to look at the terror attack, it's not because President Trump is encouraging violence. By the way, the violence is coming from the radical left. The people on the left are being radicalized. I don't know how in this country, but they are. So that's rather consistent. We'll continue to talk about it here this afternoon. I'm very interested in John Ziegler's response to a lot of this. He's a friend, the co-host of the podcast, The Death of Journalism. He'll have some reaction to Rob Reiner and also this New Year's Eve attack in Los Angeles. And, of course, on the Barry Weiss situation. I do want to talk about that. I was a little surprised. Maybe this was hopeful. And I'm a fan of Barry's. I think most of you know I've talked about her before. She took over CBS News, I think it's been 2 months now. And the only big move that she made was putting, according to the left, a guy that was too white and straight on the CBS Evening News and Tony DeCopel last week. The CBS staffers didn't like that. Way too white. He has like nice, black hair, and he's too white, and he's heterosexual, so I'm not sure how, in fact, he got a job or kept a job at CBS News, but I'm sure John will have a little bit of a reaction to that. The other thing is that Barry Weiss holds a town hall that you would more likely see on Fox News or Newsmax with Erica Kirk the other night. And then the person who asked the final question, and this is where it got controversial. I'd be very curious to see what Zig says about this. They brought in the guy that was actually, and I don't know if this was an ambush or not. Erica seemed to handle it pretty well, but it was the same guy that was asking Charlie Kirk a question the very moment that he was assassinated. So he was brought in to ask the final question of Erica Kirk. And quite honestly, it was a question that focused on a theme that we're talking about a lot today, unfortunately, in the aftermath of Rob Reiner's death. And that's just the tone, the language, the behavior of the president. That's what Erica Kirk was asked about, and we'll share her answer coming up this afternoon on 97.1 FM Talk. Sue has a Monday edition of Sue's News at 4:20.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
I do want to mention that they have reopened westbound Highway 30 at Little Brennan. Still a little bit of volume out there, but not what it was. So it's fine to go that way.
That's my back way in right there that you're talking about.
Yeah, so fortunately it's fine. As usual, it's cleared before Mark Reardon heads home.
Thank goodness.
Mm-hmm. And we've got some volume out there on 141 at Romaine Creek in both directions, but it's just at a traffic light. Now, southbound 55 is slowing, and it's south of Arsenal down through Bates. We still just have mainly moderate volume on southbound 270, but it is from Page in pockets down through Gravois. Southbound 170, some volume, but mostly moderate, but it's Olive through 64. And the accident on northbound 170 at Scudder, they've moved off to the left side. It's partially in the left lane, so still some slow-moving traffic there. Westbound 70, not bad out of downtown. It's 64, mainly moderate volume out west. Yeah. And if you're headed into Illinois, we're fine. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Stop everything you're doing right now and ask yourself, are you currently receiving steady paychecks? What about when you're retired? Will you receive a monthly check to cover your expenses and also have some fun? Marvin Mitchell and the team at Compass Retirement Solutions calls this mailbox money. It's a monthly check you'll receive throughout retirement. They don't want you to worry about if the money will show up or how much money you'll receive. The only thing they want you to think about is how to spend it when it arrives. Find out how to get enough money in your mailbox every month when you're retired. Call Marvin Mitchell and the Compass Retirement Solutions team at 314-373-1598 to start working on a plan that can help you create the monthly income you'll need in retirement. Call 314-373-1598 right now and schedule a visit with Compass Retirement Solutions. 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services, investments, and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory in Missouri and Illinois.
Is your home ready for the holidays? Beat the holiday rush. Call Zero Res. Spots are filling up fast, so don't put it off any longer. Lock in your deal today at ZeroResSTL.com, and happy holidays from all of us at Zero Res.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh Radner, and I am so excited to tell you about How We Made Your Mother, a rewatch podcast looking back at How I Met Your Mother. And I'm here with Craig Thomas, who co-created the show along with Carter Bays. Hi, Craig.
Hey, Josh. Somehow it has been 20 years since the show premiered. I'm going to check the math on that. 10 years since it went off the air, and we thought that made this a perfect time to look back, see what the hell we did, and why the show still seems to resonate with fans around the world today.
Follow and listen to How We Made Your Mother wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code NEXT for an extra 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code NEXT for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code NEXT.
Hour number 2 coming up here on a Monday afternoon.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
plot to attack on New Year's Eve. Lisa Brady, Fox News. 4 suspects in custody in L.A. for what federal investigators say was a plot to bomb several companies in Southern California. The suspects are all members of an anti-government, anti-capitalist group who traveled to the Mojave Desert last Friday.
And they began unloading their bomb-making materials to assemble and test the bombs.
First Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley says arrests were made by the FBI before the suspects could build a functional device. A 5th suspect in the same group reportedly arrested in New Orleans for a suspected plot there. The search for a suspect continues after the mass shooting at Brown University in Rhode Island, where 2 students were killed, 9 others hurt over the weekend. Investigators releasing the original person of interest. A suspect remains hospitalized in Australia after the mass shooting at the iconic Bondi Beach in Sydney, where 15 people were killed.
The 2 suspects, a father and son, began firing round after round into a busy crowd where hundreds were celebrating the first day of Hanukkah. A public menorah lighting was about to begin. The Australian Prime Minister said this was an act of pure evil, anti-Semitism and terrorism. A heroic bystander who disarmed one of the gunmen is recovering in the hospital.
Fox's Stephanie Bennett, the other gunman, was killed. One of the sons of actor and director Rob Reiner is held without bail. 32-year-old Nick Reiner accused of killing both of his parents, who were found stabbed in their home yesterday.
Our corporate cousins at TMZ are reporting that Rob and Michelle Reiner, along with their son Nick, attended a holiday party at the home of Conan O'Brien on Saturday night, and that the 3 of them were heard arguing very loudly.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt in L.A. Nick Reiner has struggled with substance abuse, mental health issues, and homelessness. America is listening to Fox News.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Here's a tale of Linda trying to lose weight, but the med prices she found were all over the place.
Hidden fees and markups made her jaw drop low. Then she found GoodRx. Now she's in the know.
GLP-1 subscriptions FDA approved.
With clear upfront pricing.
And same-day pickup.
That's GoodRx, the no-nonsense way. Save time and money on prescriptions.
Get to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
The coldest air so far this season is now a thing of the past. We have improving temperatures the next several days. On this Monday afternoon, sunny. Have to call it a touch breezy, 42 for the high. Tonight, clear skies, 28 on Tuesday, sunny. Warming up to 52 Tuesday afternoon, and Wednesday mostly sunny. How about 58? Almost a heat wave in the middle of December. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Hi, I'm trying to make a little bit of a segue here into Christmas music. A little awkward, the theme song there, for the intro for the hour, not full of Christmas cheer. Oh, but I'm going to change that right now for everyone. And you have to forgive me. And I'm going to blame Alexa Reardon for this song by Jimmy Fallon. Chipmunks and Chestnuts.
Chipmunks and chestnuts, chipmunks and chestnuts, chipmunks and chestnuts.
She tortured me with this weekend.
Time of year for chipmunks and chestnuts.
And here's the thing, I kind of like it. He's doing like a Roy Orbison thing.
The time of year for chipmunks and chestnuts.
Check it out here just a little bit, Sue.
Everyone's waiting for these 2 things. See them roast, hear them sing.
There it is.
Chipmunks and chestnuts.
So my daughter is running through the house yelling that all weekend.
Chipmunks and chestnuts.
So that was kind of a thing at my house for the weekend. But it's funny. She forced me, and she does this all the time. She kind of forced me to listen to the song, and I'm like, you know what? I kind of like the song. It's okay.
It's catchy.
Yeah, he's done some Christmas stuff that's fun, but I have I've dug into the vault, Sue, of the Mark Reardon Show Christmas music, and we're going to start sprinkling some in here as we get closer to next week. So we'll be here through Tuesday of next week. So Monday and Tuesday, I'll be here. Fred, I think you're off the whole week, right?
Yeah.
We're going to do some best ofs on Monday and Tuesday. And Tuesday in the 5 o'clock hour, I will play some Christmas music. On Christmas Eve, which is Wednesday, I got to make sure you guys keep me straight on the days here, right? That's Wednesday. Annie's Christmas holiday special will run during our show. We will all be here monitoring it and just sit. No,
just to make sure.
We will not. We will be at home with our families that day. And then I think it's a mixture of who's filling in, Ryan Recker and Joe Beamer when I'm off. Right, yeah. So that'll happen next week. And then we'll all get together at the start of next year. And then we were so thrilled because, I mean, let's face it, we don't get hardly any time off here. Especially me. We get off January 2nd, so everyone will have to get back together on January 5th. But don't you feel, Sue, like everyone's kind of in holiday mode right now already? This is the week.
Well, it is the week. And by the way, I sit there the day after Christmas and do traffic. So someone
You will
Yes.
be here for that?
Didn't it used to be bad, though, with people going out for after Christmas shop or
I
sales?
guess so. I think you're
now
thinking
it's all
of,
online.
I think you're thinking of Black Friday, because
Oh,
that's
okay.
when they
No.
used to put us up in the helicopter and do, parking lot traffic.
Well, that's true, but I do think that, I've remembered years past where I think the malls, have been crowded. Here's the thing. Yeah, it was, you guys will love this. So you'll love this. So there was a swim meet over the weekend at Kirkwood High School. You know that. And Alexa, it was a Rockwood. They combined with Parkway. So it was Rockwood Parkway, and Alexa's kind of got back into swimming. So we went to the swim meet, and then on Saturday, I watched from the stands, and then on Sunday, there's this volunteer work that you have to do. Okay, like it's sort of.
Did you volunteer?
Wait, what?
Well, no, I didn't. But my wife. So you, as a parent, you have to volunteer for certain things and responsibilities at the swim meets, right? So I do not want to do this, but I have parental responsibility. So I told Becky, I said, look, there's this thing. Well, no, I wanted to tell her that.
Yeah.
There's this thing on Sunday morning. I'm getting the emails. They need someone for hospitality. This is my favorite part of it. It's hospitality.
Stop right
Me
now.
and hospitality? What are you thinking? So what I had to do was, and these poor kids, by the way, they had to, it was weird. Both mornings were really cold. Yesterday was colder with the temperature on the gun, but quite honestly, Saturday morning was colder because of the wind and the clouds.
The wind was brutal.
So they're inside the gym at Kirkwood High. They actually literally have to go out. Now, it's only like 25 yards to the next door, but they're coming out of what they call the bullpen area where they're, gathered, and they have to go outside with their coats on in order to get into the pool. And then you get to the pool area, and it's like 95 in there. Like everybody who's a fan or a parent is stripping off clothes just so they can watch the kids. So I check in. I'm not exactly sure what I'm in for, and let's face it, I'm not the most, consumer friendly face that you want to see on a Sunday morning, probably offering you anything. So I said, I'm here to volunteer. And she's like, okay, you need to go to this room that's off the pool deck. You'll see it. It's a little room where the, the coaches and the timers will be, and there's food in there. So it's like a little green room, if you will.
Mark, there's food in there.
Right.
Oh, that only matters to the rest of us.
Well,
maybe.
no, I was good. So I went in there and I had to manage the, just make sure that the food was being replaced and the water bottles. And then I'd take a little bucket out and I'd go out to the timers and I'd see if they needed water. And it was, again, that was maybe some of the most hard work I've done in months.
I'd have loved to have seen that.
Yeah, I did it with a damn smile on my face. It was funny because Carrie, who was the tournament director, I don't think she knew me at all. And I was telling her that she was so nice and she had all this positive energy. And I thanked her. I'm like, man, you really offset my negative energy. And she's like, I don't think that you have a lot of negative energy. I'm like, well, you don't know me very well, Carrie. Let me tell you that right now. But I bring this up. Let me circle back to the mall question, because as people were kind of sitting in the room, you're having conversations and stuff like that. And if you really think about it, there's only one mall anymore. I mean, the Galleria is dead. It's just West County,
It's
Chesterfield.
West County.
And
Yes.
so everybody goes there because it's the
Yes.
only damn mall you can go to. South County's a joke. The Galleria is no longer, viable or maybe even safe at times. So good luck going to a mall. I still like putting my hands on things and, looking at things and stuff like that when it comes to presents, but that's becoming...
Not buying them, of course, just researching.
Well, I do a lot of recon before I buy, but look, Sue, I have my responsibilities right now. Becky's been on, making sure, but we have to make sure we send things down to Houston so they get there in time. I've got a couple of things that I know that I'm going to get. Okay. I just haven't...
Right.
We're making some decisions. So quite honestly, the kids in Houston, my son and my grandson and the girlfriend, they want a TV. So that kind of makes it easy because, and anyone, by the way, let me make a recommendation here for TV because, and I love Sony, I love Samsung, I like the big brands and I like good quality TVs, but there's a brand called TCL. And I can't remember what they're a part of. And it's a discount brand you'll find at Target or maybe even Walmart. They're great quality televisions. They look amazing. I have one in my office. It says, let's see here. It says
TCL Technology, Chinese, multinational electronics, blah, blah, blah.
It's not a name that you would know, but I'm telling you, the TVs are, for the price, they're outstanding. It's like, I would say the best, I don't even know if I'd call it a budget brand because you're getting a great television. And, when I was buying an extra TV for the studio that I use at home, at first I didn't think I was even going to put a TV in there. I wanted it more of an audio room, but I was glad I did because, Fred, as you know, I did the show from that room for an entire year. But I'm like, I'm just getting a TCL. I couldn't be happier with that. And so I would recommend that if you're looking for a good, Christmas present and it's a TV, you can get probably a TCL 55 or 60-inch, really inexpensive. So there, I assist you with your holiday gift giving if you're late like I am. If you like entertainment.
You got 10 days.
Have you watched this? I came across a new show over the weekend that's not a new show. Fred, I think you would actually like it, although it gets pretty naughty and nasty. But have you heard of Brockmire?
No.
Have you heard of Brockmire, Sue?
No, I had Mrs. Brockmire for Jim in 6th grade.
So this is a show that ended in 2020, and I remember hearing about it, I think, at the time, but I didn't watch it because it was an AMC show, and I must not have had the AMC app. It's Hank Azaria. He plays a guy by the name of Jim Brockmire. Now, I bring it up because there's a St. Louis connection, because Joe Buck's in the show, and he plays a role that's interesting. Jim Brockmire is a legendary baseball announcer, kind of like Vin Scully and Jack Buck, right? And he has a meltdown because he walks in on his wife in a very crazy sexual escapade. So his meltdown happens like on the air, and his career is ruined.
Oh.
Yeah. So then he goes away for 10 years, and there's a woman that has a minor league baseball franchise played by Amanda Peet. And
I like her.
I like her too, but I'm not sure about the chemistry between these two. But anyway, she brings Hank Azaria's character, Jim Brockmire, back to the minor league to give him sort of a second chance at announcing. He's not doing it on any broadcast outlet. He's literally doing play-by-play for this really awful minor league team in the stadium. And it's really raunchy, and it's very, very R-rated. And then I will say this, and I'm going to stick with it just because there's there was a really funny scene that involves Joe Buck. I'm only on, I would say, episode 5. But here's what happened. And this turned me off to the show Shameless eventually, too. I watched Shameless. I like William H. Macy. Of course, he played Joe's father, Jack, in the Soul on Fire movie. But about episode 5 of this, they get into this abortion theme. And it's just crass and not funny. And even in the scenes, and for those people who have seen the show, you might remember those scenes because the character is the character. He's a despicable human being, right? There's not a whole lot to like about Brockmire. But I felt like they took it a step too far there with what they did with the abortion stuff. But I'm going to watch just because I think it's funny. Fred, I said you would like it. Now I'm not sure.
I liked it up to that point.
The raunchy stuff or the abortion stuff?
No. I can handle raunchy.
Well, you might want to give it a try. It's by the way, the reason I found it, it's on Netflix now. So it's called Brockmire. Okay. I think it just went to Netflix. I could be wrong about that because I'm wrong about a lot of things.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, on the roads this afternoon, it's not that bad, but we've had some issues. Now, northbound 170, still maybe a little bit slow there as you head towards Scudder, all due to an earlier incident. Heavier traffic on southbound 170, and this goes from Olive down through 64. Now, westbound is lined up. It's Kings Highway out through McCausland. and some moderate volume at 270, and then Highway N out through the 70 split. 70 isn't bad. You could encounter some moderate volume here and there, and at K, Wentzville, but in general, it's okay. Now, southbound 55 has a slow pocket or two. South of Arsenal, down past Bates, and 44 westbound slowing in front of the Arch grounds. But if you're headed into Illinois, things look great on the bridges. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Thank you, Sue. They actually have a news conference going on right now. I'm going to dip into it briefly here because this is about the shooting on the campus of Brown University. There is some new video. There's some questions about the video. There's some new video, and they have a little bit more information. So let's sample this here for a moment.
The same individual that we showed you from the previous video that we released. The public is encouraged to use the tip line, which is pretty active. We have a tip line which is staffed with officers from the Providence Police as well as analysts, and they're taking calls as we speak. And we want the public to use that information that they have that may be beneficial to this investigation. They need to call 401-272-3121 +0. I was going to direct you in order to provide the tips that you are providing to us. As well, you can access the FBI website at fbi.gov/Brown University shooting. Please, I'm going to ask you all to follow our channels to stay appraised of what's going on and to stay accurate. There's a lot of channels and a lot of stuff that's going out there that's circulating the wrong info. And I told you when I first met you that there's appropriate info, there's accurate info, and it's going to come from us.
So, Fred, what I'm seeing there is a couple of different pieces of video. One that appears to indicate that there was a car that maybe somebody stepped out of, and then you see a guy that's walking at an intersection. You can see a stoplight, and he hangs a right on the sidewalk, briskly walking, but you can't really tell. I mean, maybe you could recognize the gate or something like that.
I think they might have said that they're going to show a picture, they think. And,
let's see what they're doing right now. They're showing something. Oh, this is much different. Yes. So he's masked, but you can see how large he is and a little bit of his face.
On the sidewalk of Benevolent.
You don't really see his face.
Prior to the incident. Here we go again with this video too, Mike. Again, you see him walking.
It doesn't look like a student. Looks like a large man, medium build. I mean, not obese, but pretty big.
With something concealed on his right-hand side.
Right. And they're showing like 4 different video clips. This one's from a Ring camera. He's just walking right in front of someone's home pretty casually in a very nice part of Providence, Rhode Island. And then they have a couple more. They're opening the computer and they're clicking on these files on a computer. That's what we're actually watching live on Fox. Well, he looks a little bit fatter there in that particular picture, doesn't he, Fred?
Yeah, he does.
Looks like a fat middle-aged white dude.
They're also saying, this is the 49th hour with no suspect. So they're trying to get, tie that up.
So there's your best picture. They just put a picture up there. He has a mask on. And when I say a mask, it's more like a COVID-type mask, but it's covering up most of his face. So we'll continue to follow that. Sue's News is coming up, but they have a little bit more video and some more images, surveillance images in Providence on the Brown University situation.
Don't get lulled into believing the IRS is getting soft. It's just the opposite. Hi, this is Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. We are being told by IRS collection officers that their higher-ups are demanding that they get more aggressive than ever. So don't ignore them any longer. Level up. If you have unfiled returns, unpaid taxes, levies, or liens, call me, Lance Drury, today and let me get between you and the IRS. I'll protect your rights. At the Lance Drury Law Firm, our practice is focused 100% on fighting the IRS. Remember, IRS problems are legal problems, and they need to be handled by an expert attorney who's done it for decades. So call the Lance Drury Law Firm today. We're local. Our office is right here in St. Louis. Call 314-260-6120. Visit Lance, DRURYlaw.com to schedule your free consultation with your local tax resolution law firm.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
The ACA Market Plan has just announced significant increases on their monthly premiums for 2026, with deductibles over $10,000. You can enroll with Greg Hammond's Freedom of Choice plans now. You don't have to wait. One of their plans lets you use any doctor, has 0 outpatient deductibles, and it's 30 to 60% lower than most Obamacare plans. Other options are full coverage PPOs with national networks, copays, and 100% annual preventative care. Also, there's no income disclosure required, so no potential tax penalties. If you pay for your own health insurance, you're uninsured, you're on COBRA, or your employer coverage is just too expensive, call Greg, and they'll provide all available options. Call 314-794-7784. That's 314-794-7784. Or go to greghammonds.com. That's greghammonds.com. He can custom design a plan managed and chosen by you, not the government.
Back to Mark Reardon, because someone's got to say it out loud. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey, our friend Phil Holloway, who is down in Atlanta, is going to be all over the situation on the campus of Brown University and all the other things that happened this weekend. He joins us after Sue's News at the bottom of the hour. And speaking of the aforementioned,
these allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
Fred, are you finished Christmas shopping? Mark has just been looking.
I have one more thing to buy.
That's it?
I got a lot
impressed.
done this weekend.
Okay.
I got a lot done.
Did you go to a mall, Fred?
Yeah.
I did not go to a mall.
Did you do it at home, just like a little...
Oh, no.
Oh, you went to
I
stores.
drove around.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Look at that, huh?
I did the old-fashioned... You know, one of my sons texted me and said, what did you do before Amazon? Like what I'm doing right now, driving from store to store.
Right. Perhaps you've met me, your father.
That's right.
It is National Cat Herders Day, which apparently means anybody who has a job that's like herding cats, which I kind of appreciate. So this is your day, National Cat Herders Day, National Cupcake Day, and National Wear Your Pearls Day. And I didn't look up what that meant. Sue's News has failed you on that. I just thought, oh, okay. You know what? My mom had a lot of jewelry that was costume jewelry, and I go through some of there, and she had a lot of pearls, but I have no idea if they're real or not.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't really know how to take. I should probably watch YouTube.
When you say that, it instantly puts me in a flashback to the 1970s with my grandmother and my mom's aunts, and
Yes.
they were... Now, again, I don't know if they were real pearls, but there seemed to be pearls that were involved.
Yes, it was a thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
it
yeah,
really
yeah.
was. And she has all kinds of it, but I can't imagine that they're all fake, or they're certainly not all real. All right. Okay, now 47 years ago, I love the music for this movie. Fred, let's see if you could tell what this is. In 1978, this movie was released. Loved it.
Space Odyssey?
No.
Superman. Was this the first Christopher
Superman.
Reeve movie?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was the first one, and I was so in love with Christopher Reeve. And I went and bought the People magazine, and he was on the cover. Yes, Superman was released. And don't forget, Gene Hackman was in there.
Yeah, that's right.
1978, this movie was released. And then, I was in band, poorly playing the clarinet. And so they would try to, in band, try to get you to play something that the kids were hearing. And so I played this poorly. The Superman theme, but it's great. It's more, what's his name? Who's the prolific writer of all these music themes?
John Williams?
John Williams.
Yeah.
More John Williams. Okay, and then 30 years ago today, in 1995, is when Jumanji, the first one, was released, starring Robin Williams. When this thing is on TV, I watch it every single time. I don't know what it is. Kirsten Dunst is in it. Bonnie Hunt, love her. David Alan Grier, and you look at the graphics, and it's not what it would be today.
Yeah, but it's still pretty good. I watched that with Alexa a few years ago.
Right, with the monkeys, they don't look quite right running through the streets, but I love it.
95.
Yes. Oh. And we should let's talk about the Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. We've been talking about it, of course. Found dead in their home in L.A., the apparent homicide that they think was committed by their 32-year-old son, Nick. But if we focus on his career, it is amazing. And I saw a clip today from Kevin Bacon, who was talking about how Rob Reiner set such a great atmosphere on set that it was a joy to be there. And he said we had lunch every day. He said, I've never been on a set that was quite like that. But listen, he not only did All in the Family, but he did Stand By Me and one movie that this entire show loves, The Princess Bride.
Absolutely.
It's the best movie ever.
This is another one I watched a couple years ago with my daughter.
Pezzy, are there rocks ahead? If they are, you'll be dead. No more rhymes now, I mean it. Anybody want a peanut? Yeah!
It's just such a great movie.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
I know we're gonna, people are focusing in on the politics and the whole thing.
Well, I'm not.
I'm not either. And you look at the joy that he brought over the years, from everything from This Is Spinal Tap to A Few Good Men. I mean, just behind the camera. He did both behind the camera, When Harry Met Sally. The list goes on.
The
and
American
on and on.
President.
Seattle.
Yes, The Bucket List, Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. He did so many things. And then Mark sent me this because I had not seen it this morning. More sad news. It was actor Anthony Geary passed away. Now, he played Luke Spencer on General Hospital from 1978 to 85, and then he came back in 93 and did it again all the way through 2015. And he was supposed to just be like a 12-weeker when they first brought him on there.
Well, look, and I've admitted this before, and this sounds weird probably to younger people, but a lot of us, even males, watch soap operas, and I, arranged some of my classes when I was younger at Mizzou around As the World Turns in General Hospital. And Tony Geary was a big star, and it was like the Luke and Laura thing and the wedding. That was monster news. If I would show that to my kids and say this is what we were all worked up about back in the 1980s, they'd just laugh at it.
See, my college soap operas were Days of Our Lives and Young and the Restless.
So you never watched General Hospital?
No.
Or As the World Turns. I had to watch As the World Turns because, look, you had both those shows had really hot chicks, like Marissa Tomei.
Oh, that's funny.
And
I didn't know that.
Meg Ryan was on, I think she was on As the World Turns. Oh, yeah. That's why I watched it. It wasn't because it was a soap opera. It's the hot chicks.
This is Tony Geary. He and his husband lived in Amsterdam, and he passed away at 78. Okay, but I have good news. The good news is Dick Van Dyke celebrated his 100th birthday on Saturday.
How about that?
I just, it's so cool. And Arlene Silver is his wife, and she said what she did was put together a flash mob that danced to kind of a medley of Dick's songs. And she said it went perfect. Everything was great. And he was so happy. His face, I love to make him have that face. So that worked out really well. He told People magazine, quote, I feel really good for 100. Sometimes I have more energy than others, but I never wake up in a bad mood.
Unreal.
Isn't that great?
It really is.
I just love it.
I can't even imagine living another 40 years. And maybe that's what's going to happen, but that's just incredible when you think about the span of his lifetime.
Well, it is kind of incredible. All right, and here's my really good news story besides that for the day. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty amazing. There was a farmer in North Dakota named Randy who died tragically in a car crash in September. So his entire community came together last month to harvest his crop for him. 75 volunteers from other farms, 12 combines, 40 trucks. They cleared 1,400 acres, and just so his family would not have to worry about it. And it was a huge deal in that community. That is so much work. All right, and finally, in Sue's News, we have today's extremely random fact. The human nose is capable of detecting approximately 1 trillion scents. Now, I think women can have a finer tuned sense of smell than men. Is this agreed upon, or is it just...
Yeah, we can only do a half a trillion. You guys do a trillion, we do
I think that's about true. You probably have 5.
Very random.
The rest of us do it.
I'm Dan Lodi with Your Money Now. The company that developed the Roomba remote vacuum cleaner filed for bankruptcy on Sunday and expects to go private. iRobot was purchased by its primary manufacturer, China's Paisia Robotics. Profits have sharply dropped in 2025 due to overseas competition and have also been impacted by tech upgrades, lowering prices, and tariffs. Productivity from AI is not always leading to job cuts, according to a new EY survey. It's the latest U.S. AI Pulse survey showing that just 17% of 500 business executives surveyed saw AI gains leading to job cuts. Wall Street finished the day lower, The Dow Jones Industrial Average was off 41 points, finishing the session at 48,416. The Nasdaq was down 137, and the S&P 500 off by 11. That's your money now.
A new exclusive offer with an eligible Bank of America Visa credit card is your opportunity to go from card holder to ticket holder for the FIFA World Cup 2026. For a limited time, when you're approved for a new customized cash rewards or unlimited cash rewards Visa credit card, you're eligible for a chance to purchase FIFA World Cup 2026 tickets. Learn more today at BofA.com/card FWC26. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America, proud to be the official bank of FIFA World Cup 2026. Bank of America N.A. in partnership with Visa. Terms apply. All rights reserved.
CVS Health supports people in the moments that matter, from picking up a prescription to connecting care. With nearly 5 million daily interactions and serving 185 million consumers and 1.5 million healthcare professionals, CVS Health holds a trusted place in healthcare. By simplifying care and improving health, we're helping people get the care they need. Learn more at cvshealth.com/investor day.
This might not seem like the most opportune time to put a house on the market. People think that because of the holidays. The Gelman team will say if you need to sell your home and you want to do it, you want to crank up the marketing and sell it for top dollar, get that thing on the market now. There are always buyers, and they can walk you through that at thegelmanteam.com. They have an awesome tool. Let's say you're a little curious about what you would list that home for if you're trying to get top dollar. They have a tool at the top of the page at thegelmanteam.com, and it says, how much is your home really worth? Find out for free. So you click on that, a little pop-up comes up. You have to allow that, and then you can just fill in your address. It will kick you back an accurate price, and if you need to take it a step further, well, the Gelmans are there for you. Maybe you just don't want the hassle. You want an instant cash offer. They can help you with that as well. They're amazing realtors here with eXp Realty in St. Louis. They're good friends of mine. They work very hard for their clients, and they maintain relationships as well. I truly have, real estate agents for life that I know that I can depend on with Mark and Neil and their whole team. Matt Lamb, who I got to know, who's a Packers fan. We're both probably very sad about what happened with Micah Parsons yesterday. Check out the Gelman team today, 314-336-1991, thegelmanteam.com.
Give something that means something. Roll up your sleeve at the Odyssey Blood Drive in partnership with the American Red Cross from December 16th through the 19th at multiple locations. Make an appointment in the Red Cross Blood Donor app or redcrossblood.org and enter sponsor code Odyssey for a drive near you.
Annie Fry here. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They are the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
License number E2014A. Hey, it's good to see you.
Grandpa had a soft spot for dogs.
Yeah, he always had treats in his pocket.
He said if you're going to take care of people, you better take care of their best friends too.
Is that why we help dog shelters?
That's right. For every service call, we donate 10 pounds of dog food to local dog shelters, helping dogs waiting for a home.
Grandpa would like that.
He sure would.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing.
From Troy, Missouri to Troy, Illinois. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, I would say Phil Holloway is always busy. He is the co-host of the Megyn Kelly True Crime podcast. I would say that maybe the last couple of days even more busy. Phil, how are you? Merry Christmas. Hope all is well. Where do we even start? Good Lord.
Well, great to be with you as always, Mark. Although, look, I hate that we always have to talk about such heavy subject matter. This thing going on up at Brown University, I look at this. I know you got other things you want to talk about as well, but if we can start with that.
No, I want to start with this because they just kind of are in the middle of a news conference. I aired some of the audio. So, yes, I'm interested in your thoughts here.
Well, look, this is I started out in law enforcement back in the late 80s, I guess, early 90s. So I've been around this a long time. And I can tell you this looks just like a cluster to me. The idea that they would go out and say, okay, nobody has anything to worry about. sleep safely tonight. You're good. We got somebody, that's in custody. And then you go, oops, never mind. Why not just go ahead and send the kids home? Why not just go ahead, instead of rushing and making the wrong announcement, just say, hey, look, it's an ongoing investigation. We'll know when we have something more conclusive, right? And so the idea that you're going to say we've got somebody in custody but give this sort of false sense of security is just a little bit unforgivable in my view. And the other thing about this is, you have cameras that track you and that track me everywhere we go.
Yes.
You got Ring doorbells, you got ATMs, you got businesses, you got things all over college campuses. And then you also have what we call geofencing. Everybody who has a cell phone, I got news for you. Whether you think your location services are on or not, somebody is going to be able to track the location of that phone based on what cell towers it's talking to at any particular given time. So we really have no excuse anymore for things that basically go into like this black hole of nothingness so quickly. There's lots of leads that can be followed. And look, I'm not saying that law enforcement shouldn't take their time and get it right, but if you're going to try to rush just to pick somebody up to make the local community feel better, that's no good either. You got to get it done right. You got to get it done as quickly as possible, of course. But the way they're going about it just seems like a bunch of kangaroo cops.
So there's a new video that's out. Let me address that in a moment because this was quite stunning. I played this audio earlier. This is the president of Brown University.
I'm catching up right now.
President, with all due respect, 6 hours after this shooting, and you said you don't know what was going on in that classroom? How does that happen? Were they taking an exam? Were they meeting for a club?
I don't know.
6 hours later, you're the president, and you don't know.
I do not know.
Well, that's kind of concerning.
I mean, I think maybe she was being honest, but that is concerning. That was kind of shocking to me when I heard that. Now, the current information is, and this just started maybe 20, 25 minutes ago. I aired a little bit of it, Phil. They have a news conference that they held, and they have a little bit more video. Some of it, to your point, was from a Ring camera. Some of it seemed to be from an intersection. It looks like a large white dude with a mask on that's rather heavy. They have a few different angles. I think maybe the most recognizable thing might be the gait of the person because you really can't make out their face. But you think it's enough for someone to call in a tip to track this person down?
Oh, they're going to get tips, but the problem is they're not going to be reliable tips. With all due respect to anybody who may have blamed another person recently for a crime based on a gait analysis, that's junk science. I mean, you're not going to be able to establish who somebody is based on, the gait, okay? And so we need a lot more information. The person who did this seems to have gone to great measures to conceal his identity, right? So this is something that strikes me as being planned. There's going to be a trail of it. Look, I don't mean to be too overly critical. The cops will solve this. And it may just take a little longer. But look, I don't know that the president of Brown University needs to be the chief spokesperson for this investigation either. It's troubling enough that she didn't know what was going on in that classroom. That seems like one of the first bits of information that she may have been told. Look, hey, they were in this class. They were doing this, that, and the other, and this gunman walks in. That seems like something that would be just obvious. But she's not law enforcement, doesn't know how investigations work, doesn't know what things should and shouldn't be stated publicly. The police necessarily hold back lots of information
of course,
to protect the investigation. Sometimes when tips come in, you can rule them out as being bogus tips because the tipster tells you things that you know are not true. But if you tell everything publicly, then the tipster is just going to, know what to say when they call in. So you're going to get bad leads that way.
Yeah, I mean, maybe someone can take a guess. It just looks like you have more of an image of this person's body and, their body shape and the way that they're walking. The face is just difficult to see. And of course, they planned it that way. Look, I don't even know where to go next. Should we go to Australia? This Rob Reiner thing, let me just get your thoughts on that because you hear about Hollywood deaths. We've had well-publicized Hollywood murders. This one's very unique with the son of Rob Reiner and his wife doing the, allegedly doing the murders here, slashing their throats. Phil, I was talking about this earlier. You've probably been on some crime scenes before, and I can't imagine that was not a completely horrific crime scene in that Brentwood home.
No, they are. It'd be very, very gruesome to look at. But look, We understand this. He's presumed innocent, of course, until he's been proven guilty. But the son, who has been charged with this brutal murder, notoriously struggled with substance abuse going back many, many years, I think to a pretty young age. And I'm not privy to the details of what his younger childhood may have been like, what medical needs he may have had, what medications he may have been on. But I can tell you that what I have seen in my own career is I have seen nothing but trouble when we have adults who basically grew up taking massive cocktails of psychotropic medications, to include the stimulant ADHD medication combined with the SSRIs. We just don't yet know. And look, I know people in your audience probably will disagree with this, but I know physicians and psychiatrists who agree with me on this. We don't know what that does to the developing brain. When you start a young kid's brain on these powerful psychotropic medications from a young age, what is that going to do to the brain as it matures through adulthood?
I couldn't agree with you more. I've been talking about that for decades, and I think we still, because unfortunately, I think I've said this a lot. I think a lot of us have said this. If this were the mid-1970s and we're handing out prescriptions like that, I'm pretty sure I would have been hopped up on something based on my behavior. If you look at my report cards from first and second grade, so I get your point on that as well. But boy, this kid was troubled. The latest reporting is that he was at this party on Saturday night at Conan O'Brien's house that he hosted with his father and with the stepmother, and I guess was acting very erratic and got into an argument with Rob Reiner, and then we find out what happened yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, so erratic behavior could be a function of acute drug abuse. It could also be a function of mental illness. What is the genesis of any mental illness? Is it because of sustained drug use over a period of time, or is it other things? Are there impulse control issues? This is something that, you hate to see it, regardless of what whether you agreed with Rob Reiner, who is obviously very vocal politically. Rob Reiner did something to make you laugh, to make me laugh, to make us smile at some point in his life due to his work. And you don't want to see this happen to anybody. Certainly not someone, with notoriety or the sort of someone like you grew up with. We all kind of feel like we knew him. Even if you call him Meathead, we all feel like we knew him, and a part of us loved him, and you just hate to see this guy.
I loved him for much of his life until he started spouting off, and then I just kind of tuned that part out because I knew he was Trump deranged. But, I mean, the memories, to your point, in the countless movies, whether he was acting or directing, there was that period 30, 35 years ago where everything Rob Reiner directed was gold and deserved to be. I mean, even you think about A Few Good Men, which I think lost out as Best Picture, but what an amazing, amazing movie. And then what would you say, Phil, before I let you go, on everything in Australia and the Hanukkah attack? Just horrific. Obviously, we're watching from afar, but that is so sad and so tragic. And I can't imagine even people in this country, based on the amount of anti-Semitism that exists out there, not being nervous in their own communities to go to Hanukkah celebrations based on the level of vitriol, hate that's out there for some Jewish people in this country.
Yeah, well, when you see the incoming mayor of New York City and all of the other sort of low information leftists with inability to think for themselves, who just want to go out and parrot the phrase of the day, whether it's global intifada or whatever, this is what it looks like. This is what happens when you espouse the beliefs and say that everybody needs to go and wage global holy war against Jews and against Israel. It results in mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters being dead on a beach and elsewhere throughout the world. So this is the direct and proximate result of what I think is some very, very troubling trends, and I would call them, fads. If it wasn't so tragic, I would say it's a fad. But this is the result of what happens when people go out and preach and say things and call for things without really realizing and understanding what they are talking about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
We got to get ahead of this.
It's awful. Check out the Megyn Kelly True Crime Podcast that Phil Holloway is a co-host. Have a great Christmas, Phil Holloway. It's always great to hook up with you. Thank you for everything you've done for the past year.
Always happy to help.
All right, take care.
Brother.
We'll see you. Merry Christmas.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, we've got an accident now on northbound 270 at 6440. And it looks like the center lane is blocked, but I'm also not seeing anybody get by in the left lane. So let's call it, there's something in the way and you can't see the picture. So I'm calling it the two left lanes blocked. Traffic, of course, is stacked up behind it. We have plenty of volume on westbound 6440, and this is approaching Kings Highway. It goes out through McCausland, eastbound slowing 170 through Big Bend. But out west, it's not bad, just some moderate volume. Westbound past Lake St. Louis Boulevard, 70, some slow pockets of moderate volume out of the city. But there was an accident reported near Highway K, and that's caused delays. We've got southbound 270 with that moderate volume approaching Olive through 30, and 55 is pretty slow from near Arsenal down through Bates. If you're headed into Illinois, things look fine on the bridges downtown. 44 westbound, though, slowing in front of the Arch grounds. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Maybe you're thinking of some new flooring around Christmas time. It's a great time to head into one of the 3 locations of Michael's Flooring Outlet here in the St. Louis area. Or you can certainly get started online at igotfloored.com because their website really is amazing. You can order some samples, you can get inspiration, you can apply for financing, find out a little bit about the team, you can read reviews, you can see the promotions and the products that they have. They have awesome customer service, though. So despite the excellent website that they have, Mike and his team are really the experts, and you want to have conversations with them. So maybe do some homework online, but step into one of the 3 great locations, Old Town St. Peter's, in Darden Prairie, in West County on Olive, and, of course, the website, igotfloored.com. They're open every day except for Sunday. I believe they'll be closed on Christmas as well. But if you're noodling around on a flooring project, whether it's soft or hard flooring, they got you covered at Michael's Flooring Outlet. 3 locations, igotfloored.com.
Hey, it's Trisha here, wishing you a happy holiday season. Thank you to the entire 97.1 family for another wonderful year. I'm grateful for all of you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Hi, I'm Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell, America's largest family law firm. During this time of year, difficult relationships sometimes become impossible. If you or someone you care about is facing a family law issue, let us set up a 1-hour Cordell Consult. The Cordell Consult is a meeting with a local attorney who will give you clear guidance about your options, whether it's a separation, a postnuptial agreement, divorce, or custody. CordellCordell.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood, St. Louis.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's got your back. Contact ThrottleNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
The team at Ricken Financial want to help you make educated and informed decisions about your retirement strategies.
Why not rely on individuals who can optimize your thinking and optimize your plan and optimize all the resources and show you what's all available to be able to make a truly informed decision?
Call Ricken Financial today, 314-207-6211, or online at rickenfinancial.com, and join us for Kickin' with the Rickens, Sunday at 1 p.m. here on 97.1 FM Talk.
Investment advisor products and services made available through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor.
This holiday season, when you get them Steel, batteries are included. Buy select battery tool sets and get a free extra battery. Visit SteelUSA.com for gift ideas and seasonal savings. Happy holidays from Steel. Offer valid for a limited time only at participating dealers while supplies last.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, it's a week before Christmas, and I love Christmas music. I'm going to play some next Tuesday night in the 5 o'clock hour. This is one of my favorite bands, Los Straitjackets. They perform with Mexican wrestling masks on, which is always entertaining. So it's more instrumental here. But you know what? As much as I want to segue into Christmas music, I think this might be more appropriate for this segment here. Yep. Got to welcome Frank Cusumano in, and we're on the pickleball court on Saturday against our mutual friend Jeff Drew, who had a birthday yesterday, and your daughter Brooke. And something, Frank, as you know, interesting happened. We were switching teammates, and you and I, we just smoked them in one game. But your daughter
got very defiant, and she said, no, we're going again. We're going again, this same pair. And I believe you said something like, what makes you think, based on what just happened, that you should go again? Remember saying that to Brooke?
That's right.
And what did they do? They came back and they beat us in that second game. But then, of course, we're still the champions because we beat them barely in that third game. But that was a tough throwdown. Your daughter, I don't know who's more competitive, you or Brooke, your daughter, or your wife. I've played with her before, too. My goodness. We had fun, though, didn't we, Frank?
We did have a lot of fun. And if you count the final numbers, as I reminded Brooke that night when we were watching the Billiken game, we did beat you 3 out of 4 times. So, you can just remember the stats, okay? Numbers don't lie.
I looked at you and I said, dude, you know that you cannot lose to your daughter. So we were very focused on that mission, and we thank our friend Jeff Drew, and we wish him a happy birthday from yesterday. So maybe that wasn't the most compelling sports on the field over the weekend, but good Lord, we have all these terrible stories. Patrick Mahomes is done. I'm a Packers fan. Micah Parsons is done for a year. Let's start with the Chiefs. They weren't going to really do anything and make the playoffs anyway, but this is just devastating with the Mahomes injury, Frank.
Yeah, and I know you come back now sooner with an ACL mark. It used to be, it's for sure 12 months at least. And but I wouldn't anticipate him being ready to go in the month of September. Plus, Andy Reid, 69, Travis Kelce's finished. I'm still not wild about their skilled position players. Their offensive line, is not great. I'm not saying this is the end of the run, but things are not looking great for the Kansas City Chiefs moving forward, at least the immediate future.
Well, especially because the division is getting so good, and you look at what the Broncos are doing right now and the Chargers, so it's tough out there, and it's certainly tough in the NFC as well. So it was an interesting NFL weekend. I think we're going to see some different teams in the postseason, although the Rams, man, they may be hard to stop. They look really good right now.
Yeah, they got some bad news on the wide receiver, but you're right. They clearly have been the best team. They had the best coach. They had the MVP. They had the star running back from Vianney. Puka Nacua is the best wide receiver in football. So, yeah, they look scary. And then, Les Snead, I don't like the Rams, but I've never had anything against Les Snead. He gets all these guys in the 4th round, like Nacua, like Tyron. They just draft well, and they coach them up. They're really unbelievable.
Hang on, Leeson's going to talk. I didn't have his mic up. Go ahead.
Got me? There we go. Okay. I tell you what, Frank, the NFC is just such an interesting story this year because you have two divisions that you could make great arguments for should have 3 teams in the playoffs in the West and the North. But unfortunately, there's going to be probably a really good team that's left out. And right now, it's looking like the Detroit Lions. So I know their record isn't out of this world this year, but that's still a very good football team. So it just goes to show you how good that conference really is.
Yeah, wouldn't that be unbelievable? The Lions with all that firepower and that really good coach, if they don't make it. The team that nobody talks about, they got 10 wins, is San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, don't look now, but here come the 49ers and that brilliant mind, Coach Shanahan.
Well, and even in that division, the Seahawks are good. I mean, there's going to be some interesting the next few weeks. Now, the Packers have the Bears next Saturday night, so we got some weird games because right before Christmas, that's a huge game, obviously, and that stupid tie that the Packers got at the start of the season with the Cowboys really sucks. All right, the Cardinals, I saw, picked up someone again. I guess is the MO here with Chaim Bloom, because he used to work for the Red Sox, is he only doing trades and deals with the Red Sox? Is that where we're at?
Well, it kind of looks like that. But I like the move. I mean, Dustin May at one time was a phenom. I mean, he was a phenom. When the Dodgers first brought him up, he was 6'6" and throwing 97, 98 with a wicked slider. I think this is the kind of move, though, that the Cardinals have to make. A guy that has really good talent, but for some reason or another has not pitched at an elite level. Last year, 7-11 with an ERA of nearly 5. But if you can get this guy going, and he's had some really bad injuries, including a torn esophagus. Imagine coming back from that, Mark. But I think this is a guy that could actually pitch well for the Cardinals. And if they're not in it, then you can move them at the deadline and get some good value. I like the free agent signing.
A week from tonight, I'm heading over. I'm sure you'll probably be there to the bragging rights game. That takes place with Mizzou and Illinois. And Illinois, despite being as good as they are, I couldn't believe it. I watched that Nebraska-Illinois game, and Nebraska picked them off at home in Champaign. Nebraska looking as good as I've seen them in decades right now, probably. Mizzou's playing all these teams that they should be beating by 30 or 40. Maybe they're beating them by 20. But the Billikens are kind of hot right now.
Yeah, I went on Saturday night. And they beat San Francisco, who's had some good successes over the last couple of years. Mark, there's 4 schools that they've played that are not dogs, that are reasonably good teams. Last year, when they played those 4 schools, they were a -5. This year, they're a +46. I had Kellen Thames and Robbie Avila in studio last night, and here's the best thing I could say about the Billikens. A player was recently asked by his father who your best friend is on the team, and he started to listen to a couple of players, and he listed a few more players, and at the end, he had listed the whole team, and that's symbolic of what this squad is about. They got 9 guys, and they got 9 guys who could score 15 points every night, but they all check their egos at the door, make the extra pass. They had 30 buckets on Saturday with 20 assists. They are, without a doubt, the best sports show in town as we speak.
Awesome. Frank, have a great week. We will talk on Friday afternoon as we take into the Christmas week. So have a great week.
Sounds great.
All right,
Thanks,
take care. That's Frank Cusumano. We did have fun. You said you played pickleball with Frank one time, Ethan, didn't you?
I did. Unfortunately for him, when I was playing back then, I was just getting started, so I felt like I almost burdened him with how not good I was. I'm much better now.
I held my own. I did pretty well. I think I played
you.
the best I've played. He's good, though. Cusumano's really good. I mean, he can slam the ball, and he's got some, and his daughter both. But I feel like I'm getting better as I play more. It's so much fun. It really is. And that match on Saturday, usually I prefer racquetball just because a little bit better, aerobic. But we were moving around, and it was intense competition.
It
was so funny.
It's easy to get into it. I mean, there's spots everywhere to play. Everyone likes playing. You get a little active. It's just a fun sport.
When his daughter said, well, we want the same team, Frank and I thought that they were crazy because we had smoked them, and they came back and almost beat us. So that was a lot of fun. And our thanks to the king, as we call him at Bell Reef, Jeff Drew.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads, we've got some volume out there. First of all, North County looks great. If you're a 270 driver, westbound or eastbound, it looks fine. Westbound 70, some moderate volume in pockets, Jennings Station Road, Airport, and then headed for Highway K, where we had an earlier accident, and then out in Wentzville. Now, 6440 is the usual volume. That means Kings Highway out past McCausland. Eastbound, though, is slowing right at 270, and then between Big Bend and Manchester. Well, approaching 170 through Big Bend. What am I talking about?
That's okay. We got it.
Thank you. There is an accident on northbound 270 at 64, and it's been blocking the left lanes. Some heavy traffic there. Southbound traffic, it's moderate volume in pockets from Page down through Gravois. And we've got Manchester westbound really lined up at 141. Westbound 40, most of the volume there is just moderate. And it's out at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. 55 is pretty slow, headed for Bates. And we look fine on the bridges downtown. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call
800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
At Hardee's, every Tuesday is now Tender Bender Tuesday. Right now, download the Hardee's app and join My Rewards. Buy 3 hand-breaded chicken tenders, get 3 free. It's Tender Bender BOGO. Every Tuesday now through June 2026. This Tuesday, get 3 tenders, free. Next Tuesday, get them free. The Tuesday after that, you guessed it, free. Buy 3 tenders, get 3 free. Another great benefit for My Rewards members. Only at Hardee's. Registration and app required. Available for limited time at participating restaurants. See app for terms.
What stresses you out about the holidays? Maybe it's getting that house just perfectly clean. If that's the case, call my friends at Zero Res. Mark Cox here. Is your house ready for the holidays? Well, here's your phone number, 314-474-2020. That gets you to Zero Res. Here's the deal. If you need your season to be jolly and you don't want to stress out and you want to make sure the house is perfectly clean to impress your in-laws and your friends when they come over, just remember, you can zero-res anything. They can do grout and tile and carpet and air ducts and hardwood. It is for your home and your business. Zero Res can handle it all. They do it with zero residue, no harsh chemicals or cleaners, and your house is beautiful. Go ahead and get it clean. Don't miss out. Call 314-474-2020. Tell them you want the 97.1 special. The spots are filling up fast. Go to ZeroResSTL.com.
Well, we're going to talk about the president's comments on Rob Reiner and some other crazy stuff that's in the news. John Ziegler, the co-host of the Death of Journalism podcast, my friend in L.A., coming up.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
A manhunt in Rhode Island. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. They're still looking for the person responsible for Saturday's deadly shooting at Brown University that killed 2 students and injured 9.
There's no one that wants to put this individual in handcuffs than us.
Providence Police Chief Oscar Perez, the FBI releasing new video of a person of interest, a man wearing a hat, a dark mask, and dark clothing.
While we mourn the devastating loss of the victims and those who were critically injured, the FBI and its partners are dedicated to honoring their memory through a meticulous investigation.
Special agent in charge Ted Dox, who says the FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the person responsible for the shooting. A man had been detained over the weekend but was released yesterday after authorities say evidence showed he was not linked to the shooting. Rob Reiner's son Nick being held without bail after the director and his wife Michelle were found dead at their home yesterday.
Police were initially called out to this Brentwood home at around 3:40 yesterday. As we understand it, one of the couple's daughters discovered their parents here, both apparently stabbed to death.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt. Nick Reiner has battled substance abuse and mental illness. A remembrance in Israel for the victims of the shooting on Bondi Beach in Australia that targeted a Hanukkah celebration Sunday and killed at least 15 people.
At a vigil along the beach here in Tel Aviv, hundreds paid their respects to the victims. They lit candles and a menorah while singing songs and lifting each other up. Israeli officials have expressed frustration with the Australian government for allowing such a security failure to happen.
Fox's Trey Inks in Tel Aviv. Australian leaders have promised to overhaul already tough gun control laws in the wake of the attack. America is listening to Fox News.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Sniffles and sneezes got you down? GoodRx is here to help with big savings on commonly prescribed cold and flu meds. GoodRx is free and easy to use. GoodRx is accepted at all major pharmacies like CVS, Walmart, and Walgreens. Just search your prescription, find a coupon, then show your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx is not insurance, but it works whether you have insurance or not. If you do, GoodRx may beat your copay price. Download the free app or visit GoodRx.com to save today.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
We have settled into a quiet and improving temperature weather pattern the rest of the week. Mostly clear skies, mid-30s as we go through the evening. 28 for the low on Tuesday, a fair share of sunshine. Let's call it nice in the afternoon, a good 10 degrees warmer, 54. Tuesday night, dry, but some clouds around 35. Wednesday, sunny and 55. Thursday is wet. Clouds with periods of rain, all rain. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
We're going to head up to my old stomping grounds of Milwaukee, Wisconsin at 5:30. My friend Dan O'Donnell used to work with him. He's a talk show host at WISN He's covering the trial for Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan. This is not getting a lot of coverage because of so many other things in the news cycle, but she is the circuit court judge in Milwaukee who is accused, well, I mean, she's not accused. She let an undocumented illegal evade arrest by sliding out the back door of her courtroom and got busted for it, and now she's on trial and should probably lose her law license, etc. But Dan O'Donnell will join us, plus we have an audio cut of the day. We've been talking a lot about the things that are happening. Brown University and the police in Providence holding a news conference in the last hour with some new video images of the suspect in that particular case, which they have not had in custody and do not at this point. John Ziegler is with me, the co-host of the podcast, The Death of Journalism. Oh, I'm so looking forward to this conversation because there's a lot I want to ask you, and you never hold back from your opinion. So how are you, John?
Always good talking to you, Mark.
Well, look, you're never and never have been risk averse of criticizing the president, but this whole situation with Rob Reiner, and I know how much Rob Reiner hated Donald Trump, but rarely do I agree with Thomas Massie. But Congressman Massie said, regardless of how you feel about Rob Reiner, this is inappropriate and disrespectful discourse about a man who was just brutally murdered. I guess my elected GOP colleagues, the VP and the White House staff, will just ignore it because they're afraid I challenge anyone to defend it. Now, I retweeted that and said I cannot defend it, and by this point, people probably know that he said Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. Now, the same group that, lost their minds over Jimmy Kimmel, and I thought Jimmy Kimmel, I don't think he's funny. I didn't like what he did, but they're defending this. This is what drives me crazy, and I know it drives you crazy as well. Now, there are a lot of Republicans criticizing this, but a lot of people are like, all right, well, Trump being Trump, John, and let's face it, it is Trump being Trump, right? You're not going to change some things.
I think this is beyond Trump being Trump. Of course, as you know, Mark, because we've been talking about this for about a decade, my number one concern since 2015 about a Trump presidency is that I believe that this man is fundamentally, psychologically, uniquely unqualified for this position of being the president of the United States. And I think this is a perfect example of this because I believe the number one part of the job, the most important part of the job of being president, is to be able to unite the country in times of trouble. And Donald Trump may have shown, ironically enough, the only way he can unite the country is to do something so horrible that even Democrats and Republicans are condemning it, which is what he did today. This is literally in the first line of the job description of the presidency of the United States. And he is psychologically incapable, not just from time to time, but literally, fundamentally incapable of doing this. And this has always been obvious about his psychology. What he wrote is not just outrageous. It doesn't even make any sense. That's the other part of this.
Well, it's never stopped him before.
No, but Mark,
I know. Yeah.
In all seriousness, if you tried to use logic on that post, you might be saying that the son killed his parents on Trump's behalf, right?
Right.
That's the only way you even come close to making that make any sense.
Yes, because the accusation is that they were killed because of the anger caused by Trump. That's not true. It's in the what Jimmy Kimmel said was not true, and everyone blew their lid. But they're going to defend this. You know what's interesting in moments like this, and you have a lot more followers than I do on Twitter, but what I will find is, because I never know how people are going to respond or interact, and I'm a pretty straight shooter, John. I had a lot of people who agreed with me on this. A lot of people maybe I was even surprised by. But the people who came in to challenge me on Twitter are these people who have like 300 followers. They don't follow me. They must take it upon themselves to find people that are tweeting across the country that these are people who hate Trump, that they can fight with because they're not followers. They're just randos out there that are trying to engage with people that they hate, which is just something you probably experience, again, 10 times more than I do.
I wonder whether or not those are real human beings.
Well, sometimes I do too. Yeah.
Because I would like to believe that there are not that many incredibly stupid human beings, but maybe there are with a lot of time on their hands. I had an interesting exchange with one person who tried to defend what Trump said and asked me a point, which is absurd, knowing me, as you do, you'll understand why this was ridiculous. But they said, well, if someone said horrible things about you in life and they died, would you have been magnanimous? And I said, well, forget me for a second. If I was president of the United States and it was my job, I think I would have been able to pull it off. They seem to treat Trump as if he's a normal citizen.
Yeah, no,
And
I'm with you. Absolutely. So just a couple more things as we wrap this up, because this is what he said. He didn't back off.
Well, I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. You know, it was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country.
Well, but, you know, that was not a secret that they did not like each other. I do find this nugget interesting. I've shared this with a couple of people. John, you probably saw this, that Michelle Singer, the wife, that was the same person who photographed Trump for the cover shot of his book, The Art of the Deal. That's a weird little angle, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. You wonder whether or not Trump even remembers that, or whether or not, bizarrely, maybe it had something even subconsciously to do with his rampage. You know, one of the many frustrating parts of this, and I don't know where you want to go next, but real quick, let me just mention a post that I made on Twitter that is getting a bit of traction right now that is being totally distracted from because of what Trump did. You know, look, I know it's very early in this Rob Reiner situation, and everyone needs to be respectful and find out what the facts are. But, you know, Rob Reiner made a movie with his son.
I have the audio. I'm going to you tee this up, and I will play the audio because I saw your tweet about this.
Okay, so I find this fascinating, and this is really where conservatives should be focusing the debate about this, because Rob Reiner, in his own words on the Today Show, while promoting this movie that he and his son, who would end up murdering him and his wife, created together, basically lays out the entire liberal philosophy of dealing with problem children and educational priorities in a way that today looks really, really bad and potentially may have been the cause or one of the causes for what happened with this tragedy. And to me, that was where we should be focusing. If there's any kind of criticism of Rob Reiner, that's where it ought to be.
Yeah, so here's the clip, and this is what you tweeted out. This is from the Today Show. This is about 10 years ago, I think.
It was very personal. I mean, it's not a secret, but my son, Nick, who was one of the writers of the screenplay, had his problems with substance abuse, and he went through a number of rehab programs from the time he was 15 to 19. He's doing very good now, but what I didn't understand is the depth of what he was going through, and the process of making this film not only forced me to see what he was experiencing, but I think it forced him to see what I went through and what his mother went through, and hopefully the film is a reflection of that.
I think it's going to be tremendously helpful for so many people to understand.
Hopefully, we have to not punish people who have problems. We have to help them, and I think we're going in that direction now. People are starting to recognize it because it's been given a national spotlight on the campaign trail.
You're talking about more of the social worker attitude that he had there at the end of that clip?
Yeah, his phrase, we shouldn't punish people who have problems. Now, look, I realize we're talking in generalities and we don't know the details here, but it certainly seems like this story turned out in a way that would at least make you think, and at least make it a legitimate question to ask. Maybe the person in question here had problems because they weren't being punished by their father, who was a very powerful guy. And obviously, as a father, discipline should matter. That is, I don't think, out of bounds with regard to the facts that we currently have here. I mean, to me, it's an important question and something we could at least learn from this tragedy. I mean, instead of beating each other up over a stupid Donald Trump post.
Yeah. No, and I understand that. So then there's a couple other stories I want to get to here this afternoon, so I don't want to run out of time. And I don't know how this is going to turn out, and there's so many different angles, but let me start with Barry Weiss on Saturday night with this forum that she did with Erica Kirk, and then I want to get to some of the stuff with Erica Kirk and Candace Owens. So hold your thoughts on that. But so Barry Weiss, who takes over CBS News, holds his town hall, which you'd ordinarily see something like this on Fox, but it's on CBS News on a Saturday night with Erica Kirk. And this is the last question. It's the guy that was actually asking Charlie Kirk a question when he was brutally assassinated.
Hi, thank you. Your faith in this process has been inspiring, and that inspires this question.
How are you able to trust God amidst unfair and immense suffering?
One of my favorite books in the Bible is the book of Job.
Well, that's not the cut I was looking for there. So maybe that's not something that I sent appropriately. But you know the cut that I'm talking about, right, John?
Yes,
Okay.
I've seen
That's
all the key clips.
Yeah, that's the wrong clip, I think. So that might have been my screw up there.
She is asked basically to respond to Candace Owens' conspiracy theories. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, but it also that it was the guy who was asking the question at the Turning Point USA event that was asking the question. He was asking the question about Trump and his tone and his rhetoric and how she sort of weighs that with everything else that's going on. And again, I apologize because I was going to play the specific audio, but we got the wrong clip.
No, I thought she was put on the spot there.
Yeah.
And I didn't. She kind of dodged the question, in my opinion. Barry Weiss has been getting a lot of criticism from the left. I mean, the left has been melting down over the idea that a conservative widow was able to be platformed in what I thought was a very interesting discussion where, Barry Weiss, I think rightfully condemned much of the MAGA media, specifically Candace Owens, for what have been absolutely bat crap crazy lies and conspiracy theories. I had no problem with this being on CBS, but liberals are so used to CBS being a place where this could never happen, as you've already implied a couple times, that they're almost literally losing their minds over it.
Yeah, it's funny because like the liberals are losing their minds over the fact that Barry even did this on CBS News.
Yes.
And then you have people on the right that are pissed off because they think that the question that, the guy asked, that it was sort of setting her up for failure on that. So nobody's happy, I guess, with the thing that happened on Saturday night. But with Barry overall, she makes this move with Tony DeCopel. White, I think he's straight. That's kind of dangerous, right, to put him in the CBS Evening News chair. What else has she really done at CBS up until this point? Because even that move wasn't real popular, I guess, with the staffers. So we don't know exactly how she's transforming that whole product overall.
See, I think Tony, and I've watched Tony very, very carefully for a long time because this gets into the weeds a little bit, but during COVID, I sent Tony a clip of my daughter because CBS had asked for little kids' reactions to schools being closed. And he not only used my daughter in the piece, he used it in the tease. And I think this is, how my brain works, Mark. I think Tony was one of us.
Really?
I think he's a closet conservative. I mean, I have a nose for these things. He is not a liberal.
That's very interesting. Well, there have been times where he's gotten into trouble with coworkers because he has asked some of the questions that the lefties, typically wouldn't ask. So maybe he's a little bit more toward the middle than we think. But if he was a conservative, that would quite be something, wouldn't it?
I think he's a closet right of center person. That's my opinion, having watched him very closely and having had that rather unique interaction with my daughter during COVID.
On the topic of your daughter, and in the spirit of Christmas, John, I want you to share this. I think you shared this story last year, but you had something else sort of magical related to your daughter occur in your neighborhood this Christmas time, didn't it?
Wow, I'm fascinated that you find this an interesting enough story to tell in St. Louis, but I'm happy to tell it because I think it's a great story.
It is a great story. Yeah.
So the short of it is, because it actually deals with COVID, is that in the year 2020, we were in the insanity of COVID, especially here in Southern California. We had a horrible Halloween, just horrendous. Worst experience as a parent I think I've ever had. And I saw the handwriting on the wall with Christmas. And we have in our neighborhood, like a lot of neighborhoods, we have this one neighborhood that really does it up big for the Christmas lights. I mean, people come from miles and miles around to see the Christmas lights. And I knew where we were headed on this. I knew there was going to be a group of people in that neighborhood that wanted to cancel. And the woman that started it, this is where it gets interesting from a political perspective, the woman that started the whole thing many years ago, we went on a basically a scouting mission, and it was an election year, obviously. She had a massive Biden for president flag.
Right.
And I'm like, we are screwed. We have no chance. Halloween was canceled. Our Christmas, which we do this 20 nights during December, we walk the lights. This is going to get canceled. So I get this idea of having my then 8-year-old daughter write a letter to every single member of the neighborhood and basically make the plea, can we please keep the Christmas lights this year? And lo and behold, the Biden lady was the only one that bailed. Everyone not only stayed strong, Mark, it was the best year ever. And since then, it has exploded. It has exploded. And there are 2 or 3 houses to this day that still make sure people remember what happened on that 2020 year where it was almost canceled. And you know how these things work. This goes away 1 year. It's over, right?
Yeah. I think you're
because
right.
everybody that doesn't want to take part in it is going to use that as an excuse.
Yes.
Yeah, we're done with that. It's over with. Well, there's this one house, and I'll never forget this, 2020, we're walking along, we're trying to figure out how many of the houses are going to go along with this, and one house has prominently displayed, my daughter's name is Grace, this massive sign that's all decorated that says, Merry Christmas, Grace.
I love that. I remember you sharing that last year.
Right. And so this year, bizarrely, we have no idea how this happened because my other daughter is younger, Diana. She was mentioned in that original letter 5 years ago. All of a sudden, we're walking along the lights this year. Of course, Grace is very proud of her sign. And about a week into the Christmas season, all of a sudden, they add, and Diana.
I love that.
Which my little daughter had always been a little bit jealous of Grace. And so that problem got alleviated by people we have never met, Mark.
That's what's incredible. That's what's incredible. So did the Biden lady ever turn the lights back on in the past few years or not?
The next year, she quietly just decided that it was okay to go along with it. And I take great pride every night in December when we walk past the Biden lady and she's got the full lights on.
I love that. Well, look, I love the story. I'm glad you shared it again this year. You have a great Christmas. And I love you, Zig. Stay on top of it. We'll talk after the first year. We'll take care.
Christmas.
Yep, we'll see you.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got an accident on westbound 70 at 79, and they have been blocking the right lanes. And, of course, it's pitch black outside because, it's 5:20. And we've got the right lane still blocked, only one left lane getting by, and a jam behind this thing that goes back through 370. Now, also pretty slow is southbound 170, and this is just south of Olive through 64. Westbound 6440, slow pockets, Kings Highway out through 270, and just some moderate volume at Prospect. Southbound 270 looks better than the inner belt, but it's moderate volume from Olive and pockets through Gravois. And eastbound 40 slow at 170 through Big Bend. 55, of course, is slowing at Bates, and we look fine if you're headed into Illinois. Really no delays on the bridges downtown. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/radio for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/radio for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
From politics to pop culture, Reardon breaks it all down. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Going to head to Milwaukee here in about 10 minutes. My friend Dan O'Donnell, talk show host at WISN. Real interesting case. Hannah Dugan, circuit court judge, who is on trial for helping an illegal immigrant escape out of her courthouse. So we'll have the very latest on that. I love, well, first of all, I love old-time, grumpy newspaper columnists, guys like Bill McClellan here in St. Louis. There's a guy by the name of John Cass who I've followed for years. John used to be at the Chicago Tribune. He's now just on his website because, as is the case with most media, the resources aren't there, and some of the really good qualified people took buyouts, et cetera, and they don't work in the media anymore. The good thing is you have websites like johncass.com. And he wrote about Minnesota and Little Mogadishu, and I thought the way that he positioned this piece as a Greek immigrant was really, really interesting. And he pointed out, and we've said this before, this whole story about fraud in Minnesota that the City Journal broke a couple of weeks ago. We've talked about that for a couple of years on this show with some of our folks like David Strom up there and Liz Collin. And what John points out is that, people in Minnesota, conservatives, have been screaming for years, begging the media to pay some attention to the rampant fraud in Little Mogadishu, formerly known as Minneapolis. So Mr. Cass writes in his latest column, he says, look, my family wasn't from the hellholes of East Africa, but of Greece. Yet beautiful, civilized Greece had been savage hellhole too, at least savage as Somalia for some time, with communist death squads and child murder and raping. It was a mouth of hell. Now, he said he was born there just 10 years after the bloody Greek Civil War, and his family fought the communists. He says, we hardly ever talked about the Civil War there. We weren't the only ones avoiding family nightmares. Refugee families like the Vietnamese avoid the past as well. They are here in the future, going to college, full of optimism in America, reaching for the American dream. We Greek immigrant kids loved America, too, all of us. Those who would become liberal Democrats, those who would become conservative Republicans, and those who would be apolitical. They loved America. This is the theme here, right? John Cass says, we eagerly joined patriotic pageants at school. We revered education and educators, and several cousins became teachers. We played American sports, desperately to prove ourselves as Americans. My aunts, there were 6 matriarchal sisters here in America, competed against each other to make Jell-O molds they learned about in the Chicago Tribune. John Cass says, we laughed at this, even at the famously delicious strawberry chiffon Jell-O molds and the horrid ones with the floating fruit chunks. Remember those? Ugh. Ugh. Those Jell-O molds were the epitome of Americana to us. Those are some memories from when I was a kid. There's no doubt about that. He says they'd be served for dessert for Sunday dinner along with platters of fresh fruit and honey. I can't pronounce this word with coffee. It's a Greek dish, and I'm not even going to try. But he's talking about how the men would smoke and talk politics, and everything was up for discussion. The kids were expected to participate. The women were expected to participate. He says we were so eager to become Americans that we eagerly told stories of assimilating to the ways of the Americani. We'd fight you if you dared suggest that we didn't love this country. Our parents kissed the ground of America, and they saw no shame in loving the country that saved the world and saved us. In the old country, my father and grandfather received a hardworking mule to help them plow the fields and survive the famine of the wars. They loved America. They dreamed of it. All Greeks can see themselves in Elia Kazan's America, America. My father dreamed of America since boyhood. We loved this country. We counted ourselves fortunate. We would never hurt her or steal from her. In other words, we weren't Somalis. And he told this great story, kind of digress. He goes, quick story. Years ago in the spring, I was driving in along I-57, he said. And I guess his grandparents were there, and they had stayed in Greece when the rest of them came to America. And his grandfather says, I have to get out. And he pulls over on the shoulder of the highway at the edge of a cornfield. He walks up to the fence. He turns his face. John says he could see that he was sobbing. And he said, how flat, how rich, so beautiful. Theo said, sticking his hands into the soil. One small field could feed a whole village for a year. What a country, my boy. What a country. America, America. But as John points out, he doesn't hear wonder or gratitude from the lips of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, a Somali refugee who was given everything from America, protection, money, status, and education, everything. All I hear from her, John Cass wrote, is how she despises our country, complaints and demands. Few Americans know that she is of the oppressors among the Somali. He says, I watch her seething and hating America, always demanding, sneering, at the discovery of billion-dollar fraud. I can envision her someday ordering our executions. Well, look, that sounds radical, right? But her father was of the brutal Somali regime that led to the brutal genocide there. And when the bloodthirsty regime fell, her family fled as refugees from the others that they had ruined had done. So they were of the ruling elite. And Omar's family flees. They go to Kenya first, then they go to the United States. So the question is, did they flee oppression, or were they the oppressors fleeing accountability? I believe it was the latter. That's interesting. According to reports by both legal and historical standards, despite Ilhan Omar's team's spin in numerous recent articles which have been placed in left-leaning publications, the logical conclusion that Ilhan Omar's father was almost certainly intimately involved with the genocide is unmistakable. It's supported on the balance of probabilities, and the totality of the circumstantial and inferential evidence available indicates more critically that it meets the threshold that this was the case beyond reasonable doubt. Which begs the question, why do the American taxpayers keep giving Somali people billions of dollars? Well, his answer is because we've been manipulated by the global left to hate ourselves, because we're suicidal. Now, he kind of goes into Chicago politics and how the little Mogadishu way is the same thing in Chicago with fraud and abuse. And John Cass is, an expert at writing about this stuff, and he has been for decades in the city of Chicago. But I have to share the way he closed this piece. He says, I'm not angry at the people of Afghanistan or Somalia. We should never have gone to Afghanistan or Somalia. And gathering tribal people from the Stone Age and shoehorning them into America, expecting they'll develop an affinity with the Federalist Papers, is not a solution. Not for them or for us. Yes, the Democrats shipped them in by the tens of millions. Biden called them to storm the border. And the other Democrats and legacy corporate media wanted the migrant poor to become their dependents, requiring federal aid. The Democrats upheave our society to get votes. They do not demand assimilation, as all political parties demanded when John's family came to America. The poor and the desperate are compelled to kiss the hand holding the food. But on a large scale, it's a prescription of failure. And it is. We can't just live this way. This is our way of life. That's what's on the line here. So I voted for President Trump, despite all the failures and the concerns. Mr. Cass says, look to Europe. See what caving to the left means. The Europeans are allowing themselves to be devoured. It's so bad now in the UK that authorities have arrested thousands of Englishmen for daring to speak their minds. On the internet. You say things on the internet, you get arrested. That's not 1984, as John Cass wrote. That's not a dystopian novel. That's what's happening in reality in 2025. Now, he says in a few years they won't have a country. Do the Democrats hate America so much that they would visit such pain and anarchy upon us? Yes. Yes, they hate us that much. They've broken the immigration system. Any attempts to fix it, they don't want any part of that, right? And if you want to do it as a conservative, you're a subhuman Nazi. Now, this seems very, very insensitive on the part of the president, Mr. Cass, to suggest that the Somalis shouldn't be here. But he closed this way in his column. America must be rid of those who don't want to assimilate soon, or will die. And our children and our country will die. We're not sheeple to expose our throats to slaughter. We're Americans. Remember that. I think that's pretty important.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Watch out for an accident on westbound 70 at 79. They've got the right lanes blocked, only one left lane getting by, and we've got a parking lot jam behind it, at least back to 370. Now, also slow tonight is southbound 170, and this is from about Del Mar down through 6440. We've got westbound 40 with slow pockets, Kings Highway out through, it looks like Lindbergh now. Then things open up. We've got eastbound a little slow between Lindbergh and Big Bend, but it's fine at the Poplar Street Bridge. Southbound 270, moderate volume from Olive down through Manchester, and then some pockets down through 21. If you're headed in to Illinois, things look great on the bridges downtown. This report brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Annie here, and I can proudly say no more spiders in my home. I use Point Pest Control 4 times a year, and I haven't seen any, not a single one, since they've been in my home. Mention Annie and get 10% on top of any other special. Point Pest Control, 636-798-0023.
Scott, can you believe it's already been more than a decade since the Queen of Carpets sold flooring to St. Louis area contractors?
I know, but I don't have to be a king to offer contractors today's lowest prices.
Yes, contractors owe it to their customers and themselves to shop at Best Buy Flooring for the largest in-stock selection of carpet, carpet tile, sheet vinyl, laminate, hardwood, luxury vinyl plank, and luxury vinyl tile.
Plus 3 convenient locations, North County, South County, and Metro East.
Open 7 days a week.
Best flooring, best selection, Best Buy. Best Buy Flooring.
Your one blood donation can help save the lives of others. That's why the American Red Cross needs you. This holiday season, give something that means something. Make a difference in the lives of others by rolling up your sleeve and donating at the Odyssey Blood Drive in partnership with the American Red Cross from December 16th through the 19th at multiple locations. Make an appointment in the Red Cross Blood Donor app or at redcrossblood.org and enter sponsor code Odyssey for a drive near you.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing.
Cutting through the spin. 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative.
Crazy case in Wisconsin. Going to keep track of this. You have a trial underway for Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan, who is accused of letting an illegal migrant just slip out the back way in her courthouse. She's now on trial for this. My friend Dan O'Donnell, Milwaukee talk show host at WISN Radio, with me this afternoon. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Mark.
This is one of those stories because I always refer to the news cycle and how busy it is. I think it's being a little undercovered nationally because of everything else that's going on right now. You got Rob Reiner, a lot of other things. But this, and you and I talked about this when this happened, this is a fascinating case where it certainly looks like this judge, who was a Milwaukee County Circuit Court judge, helped get someone who is an illegal out of her courtroom, encouraged that action to avoid ICE.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. And in fact, during opening arguments today, prosecutors played audio that was recording during an off-the-record portion of the hearing at which she did help this illegal, a violent illegal who had been deported before escape. She actually told her court reporter, "I will take the heat for getting this guy through the jury room exit and away from ICE agents." Yeah, it was a pretty dramatic courtroom moment because we knew that there was some sort of incriminating statement that Dugan had made. We didn't know it was that incriminating. In fact, the Milwaukee County Circuit Court, where Dugan was employed, as well as the state court system, refused to release this audio to the public, despite multiple Freedom of Information Act requests, because they argued, well, it's not in the public interest. Well, yes, obviously
yeah, I think it is.
Now I think we know why. There was a bit of an effort to protect her because this is about as damning as it gets. Not only that, in the opening argument prosecutors made this morning, they actually revealed evidence that we did not know about before. Dugan used a private email address, so not one that would be necessarily discoverable under a Freedom of Information Act request, to share with her fellow judges a poster that was on her door that said effectively, "If you feel unsafe appearing in court, let me know." Once again, we have what appears to be evidence of clear intent to use her position in order to shuttle illegal alien criminals. This guy was a criminal, and she shuttled him out the jury room door and away from ICE agents.
It really is amazing. And if that audio that you referred to is accurate, I think that would immediately remove any reasonable doubt here. But Dan, you're also someone who has a law degree. And I remember when this all happened, Jonathan Turley and a couple others wrote about this, saying you'd have to have an overwhelming amount of evidence because, you're going after a circuit court judge and you're still going to have a pretty, high bar, for example, for prosecution. But it seems, you tell me, you're close to the action here, that the prosecution has this pretty buttoned up. What's the defense going to do?
Well, what the defense did in its opening argument, Dugan's defense attorney, Stephen Biskupik, who's actually a former U.S. attorney under the Bush administration in Milwaukee, has been trying to turn this into a referendum on ICE agents themselves. No real surprises that there was an attempt to politicize this, but he is trying to make the case that, well, Dugan is being prosecuted because she didn't act in the way that the Trump administration wanted her to act towards ICE agents. Well, unfortunately for the defense, the statutes that she's accused of violating are crystal clear. She interfered with the enforcement of valid federal immigration law, regardless of whether or not you're a leftist judge and you don't think that ICE should be able to deport people. They are legally authorized to deport people, regardless of what sort of warrant, whether it's an administrative warrant, whether it's a judicial warrant. Both actions are equally valid under the law. The statute makes this abundantly clear. So it's no surprise that Biskupik is on Dugan's behalf trying to say, well, this is really about what we want ICE agents to be able to do in courtrooms or in churches or whatever. No, it actually isn't. It's whether or not a judge did what, in my humble opinion, is about the worst possible thing a judge can do. And that is simply use her position not just to declare someone not guilty. People, I think, forget the illegal alien here, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, was accused of viciously beating his roommate and his roommate's girlfriend. This was a violent assault from someone who had been deported before. She didn't just declare him not guilty or dismiss his case, which would be objectionable, but certainly something she could do given her power and her authority as a judge.
Yeah.
She took the law into her own hands. She said, I'm going to help this guy sneak out. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think
Dan,
he's
it's
ever going to
unbelievable.
come back?
It really is. So this is what I love about this, because it really is. It's comical if you think about it. So Biskupik, and I'm reading a little bit about these opening statements, right? Yeah. He says that the judge cannot be found guilty by association for the fact that he decided to run from agents. All she did was send him out the hallway. That sounds like an SNL bit.
Yeah, it does. It's like, well, she just showed him the door, a door that, by the way, nobody else knew was here. The other argument he tried to make was, well, guess what? The door was only 11 feet from the public.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's behind the jury box. Everyone who goes in a courtroom knows you're not supposed to go out through that door. So if there is, and it goes to a completely separate elevator, it goes to a completely separate area of the courtroom. I mean, you can't take too much away from opening statements, but it certainly does sound like the defense is sort of grasping at straws right now.
You know, how would you handicap this? Because, again, you know, we've talked about a lot of cases, Dan. You've followed a lot of these. I've covered a lot of trials. Juries are very hard to predict, right? And you don't know, and if you're not in the courtroom the whole time, sometimes it's hard to tell. But this one, it would shock me just looking at what has happened in the case and based on what happened in opening statements, if there's not a guilty verdict here. So, is there enough leeway, do you think, that she could be found not guilty?
I mean, the only way you would really get one is, I think, if there's a form of jury nullification here, where the jury basically says, yes, we know the law is crystal clear. Her actions clearly violate said law, but we want to make a political or sociocultural statement about ICE and about the Trump administration's administration of immigration law. And they basically say, okay, well, Hannah Dugan is a martyr for the cause.
Yeah.
That to me is the only thing. Now, it speaks volumes to me that the judge overseeing this, Lynn Edelman, is about the most left-wing judge. He's 85 years old, and he has been about the most left-wing judge on the federal bench for decades and decades and decades.
I remember his name, but was he, when I was there, like in early 2000s, was he a judge or was he a prosecutor? Because I remember that name.
He was, I believe, a judge. He was a state legislator for a good portion of the duration of when you were there, but Bill Clinton appointed him to the federal bench in, I want to say, 96, 97, somewhere in there. And he's been there ever since. But the fact that he didn't throw out this case, the fact that he didn't say, the prosecution did not meet its burden, we're not going to have a trial, case dismissed, means I struggle to see how she's not dead to rights.
Right.
When
I would
even
agree.
Edelman, who being just far left, and he was a guy who actually got viciously smacked down by the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals because despite all law and evidence to the contrary, he tried to claim that Wisconsin's voter ID law about a decade ago was unconstitutional. Seventh Circuit wrote just a humiliating reversal of his decision, saying one judge doesn't get to overturn a law passed by both houses of the legislature and signed by a governor, even if he really, really, really doesn't like it. So the fact that Edelman is very politically left-wing, very diametrically opposed to Trump, despises ICE, I am presuming, but isn't and hasn't dismissed this case, tells me that even he can see how strong the evidence is against Dugan.
Yeah, that's interesting. It really is. What's the expectation for the timetable here? Will they be done before Christmas, or is that not expected?
Yeah, I believe there are 4 days set aside for this trial, possibly a 5th if need be. It seems like they're moving very, very quickly. The prosecution has presented 2 or 3 witnesses already this afternoon following opening statements, but the presumption is it's going to be done this week, and then who knows how long the jury is going to deliberate. But my guess is that it's not going to be very long. Dan
O'Donnell up at WISN in Milwaukee, where they are very sad today, as I am, that Micah Parsons is out for the rest of Dan. Oh, my God. And then, I cheat a little. I split my allegiance, and so I'm a Chiefs fan, too. And then Mahomes goes down. They were kind of done anyway. But Micah, with that injury, and Christian Watson, I love the guy. But he's like we had Sam Bradford here with the Rams. He's like the Sam Bradford of wide receivers. He gets hurt all the time. I feel terrible for the kid, but good Lord.
Yeah, he just is never going to be able to stay on the field, unfortunately. He rushed back from that knee injury last year, and now it looks like, he's on the injury report, and theoretically he's going to try to play. My guess is that he's not. That looks pretty serious when Surtain fell on him. Parsons, obviously, is the just absolute killer loss. If not for Myles Garrett doing what he's doing in Cleveland, Parsons would have been the defensive player of the year, and it wouldn't have even been close. And he has just been the heart of the Packers defense. And to lose him probably well into next season, that's just tough.
Yeah, that's the problem. That this is like, even for Mahomes, that's like a year, like you're talking like maybe mid-season return if everything goes well. So that's, these athletes, I saw Micah's statement, it was very positive, but I feel badly for them when they just have to sit there and do rehab for the whole time. They do make a fair amount of money for doing that. Dan, I hope you have a great Christmas. I hope all is well with the new show up there on WISN, and you keep in touch.
Absolutely, sir. Merry Christmas to you.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, we've got some issues on the roads tonight. The biggest jam I'm seeing is on westbound 70 as you head for 79. There's been an accident there blocking the right lanes for quite some time, and there is a jam behind it back past 370. But also slow is 6440. Now, we've got a couple of accidents reported there. One is kind of as you approach Clayton-Warson, really close to McKnight. Look for a jam behind that. And then a second one just past Clayton-Warson. So eastbound drivers slowing there as well. But expect a slow go. Moderate volume that starts at Hampton and continues out to that accident. Westbound Manchester jamming at 141. Southbound 55 is in pretty good shape. And if you're headed into Illinois, we really do look okay on the bridges downtown. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Merry Christmas.
Hey, it's Scott Jennings. Thanks to the 97.1 FM Talk listeners for a great 2025. Wishing you and yours a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
From all of us at 97.1 FM Talk.
What stresses you out about the holidays? Maybe it's getting that house just perfectly clean. If that's the case, call my friends at Zero Res. Mark Cox here. Is your house ready for the holidays? Well, here's your phone number, 314-474-2020. That gets you to Zero Res. Here's the deal. If you need your season to be jolly and you don't want to stress out and you want to make sure the house is perfectly clean to impress your in-laws and your friends when they come over, just remember, you can Zero Res anything. They can do grout and tile and carpet and air ducts and hardwood. It is for your home and your business. Zero Res can handle it all. They do it with zero residue, no harsh chemicals or cleaners, and your house is beautiful. Go ahead and get it clean. Don't miss out. Call 314-474-2020. Tell them you want the 97.1 special. The spots are filling up fast. Go to ZeroResSTL.com.
If you want thick, healthy, gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. Available as a tablet or delicious gummy, Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Days where it's sort of been hard to track the stories to a certain extent from the perspective that there's so many. We still have a suspect on the loose at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. I have some things for audio cut of the day, but let me give you the very latest on that because in the middle of the show today, they held a news conference. And, one of the questions, this was stunning. So let me play this first because I played this a little earlier. The president of president of Brown University in Providence was asked by a reporter in the aftermath of this all happening, 6 hours after the shooting started, what was going on in the classrooms. And the president was really caught off guard by this.
I'm catching up right now.
President, with all due respect, 6 hours after the shooting, and you said you don't know what was going on in that classroom? How does that happen? Were they taking an exam? Were they meeting for a club?
I don't know.
6 hours later, and you're the president, and you don't know.
I do not know.
Well, that's kind of concerning.
I think it's concerning as well. But now you have the Attorney General, and I'm going to lead you into what happened today. The Attorney General of Rhode Island said, yeah, you know what? There's just not a conspiracy. There's just not a lot of video.
There just weren't a lot of cameras in that Brown building is the reality. It's, both of my kids were engineering students and were in that library a lot, class of 19 and class of 22. The reality is it's an old building attached to a new one. So there just isn't.
Okay. But the reality is, in this country in 2025, and this has been the reality for a while, there are cameras everywhere, dude, everywhere. And now we know that because this shooter's been caught on several cameras, and the police department in Providence had to release some of those today and show people I would describe it as a portly man who looks white to me, but he's got a black mask on, and it's the kind of mask that it's, COVID-esque, but it covers more of his face than a COVID mask even. He clearly was trying to, mask his identity. Here's what they said today, and they released some of these videos.
They're at the 49th hour, and there's no one that wants to put this individual in handcuffs than us. So this has brought us to a new lead, which I momentarily will be able to provide you with. That's going to include video of this individual, as well as photos of this individual. We're asking the public for assistance to be able to identify this individual. The photos I will be able to show you are coming from the area of Hope Street near Benevolent and Manning. And those photos and those videos were retrieved around 2 p.m. on Saturday the 13th. And we believe that that's the same individual that we showed you from the previous video that we released.
You don't get to see a lot, but they're hoping that someone recognizes this guy. It's not like Luigi Mangione, where it's going to stick out with eyebrows.
So this is the first video that we're showing you. This is the individual walking. It's on the sidewalk of Benevolent. And this is prior to the incident. Here we go again with this video too, Mike. Again, you see him walking.
That's a person on the radio describing video that you can't see, and I understand that, but it's not something that jumps out to you. If you've seen these videos released, we're going to say, oh, they're going to get this guy within the next few hours. Will someone potentially recognize him? I think maybe, but I'm not sure it's going to be so cut and dry. And this is weird because they still don't have that person in custody.
Stand by. Playback ready. Now, the audio cut of the day.
Well, look, I'm keeping politics out of this right now because Rob Reiner, as a actor and as a comedian and as a filmmaker and producer, was a legend, and the movies, movie after movie after movie, like this one of my favorites.
Did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
I mean, that's one of the best movies of all time. You went lighter with movies like When Harry Met Sally.
That's what I always say. Let it lie. Want to spend the night in a motel? See what I did? I didn't let it lie.
Harry.
I said I would, and then I didn't.
Harry.
I went the other way.
Harry.
What?
We are just going to be friends, okay?
And then what he did in the early 1970s with Carol Connor and Norman Lear and the cast of All in the Family was groundbreaking.
Hey, Arch.
What do you want?
I don't know about these pajamas you gave me.
About 90 million people in the city of New York, and look at me, shacking up with you.
What are you taking?
It's for blood pressure. What they call an anti-meathead pill.
You know, it's kind of jarring. Who was it? A couple years ago, they went back and some more modern actors, if I remember correctly, did some of the episodes of All in the Family, live on television. I seem to remember that happening. But if you go back and watch some of the original, versions of All in the Family, I remember watching this. My daughter's 11 years old. I had to be younger than her because this would have been like 70, 73, 74 watching with my grandparents. But you watch it in 2025 and you see the topics that they were touching on and talking about. It's jarring to think that kind of discussion happened on American television in the early 1970s. You might not even be able to pull it off today, as weird as that is. Have a great Monday night. We'll talk tomorrow at 3.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got an accident blocking the left lanes in both directions. 6440 at Lindbergh. Eastbound is jammed. Westbound is jammed. We've also got an accident westbound 6440 approaching the Interbelt. That was in the left lane. We've got one past there as well. So really kind of a mess through there. Eastbound 40 jams near 270. Westbound is jammed just past 170. Some moderate volume along northbound 170 headed toward 270. They cleared the accident. Westbound 70 at 79. Traffic unwinding behind that. And still some moderate volume southbound 270 headed down toward 21. If you're headed into Illinois, we actually look good on the bridges downtown. This report brought to you by Aspen Contracting. RoofsByAspen.com. Is your home siding cracked, faded, or storm damaged? Aspen has the materials, manpower, and project managers to get the job done fast. Don't let your home become an eyesore. Call Aspen today for your free siding inspection. 636-465-1696. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
You've been listening to the very popular Wellness One for many years, Saturdays and Sundays on 97.1 FM Talk. We're happy to share that we've expanded the show to 4 times a week. Yes, 4 times every weekend. Saturday at 10 a.m., Saturday at 8 p.m., Sunday